hello.
Hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good something.
Indeed. We are here again for another week. I have got my AC going, so hopefully it's not too distracting to any listeners on headphones or anything.
Can't even hear it.
If it is a problem, let us know, and I will switch it off, but it has been absolutely roasting today. So
I do have a fan blowing on me, but hopefully the mic's not picking it up.
Can't hear them.
All right.
My AC's too loud.
One thing I do want to get out of the way is we're probably not going to have a show next week. That's probably not a definite.
We'll work that one out.
Between holidays and Flutter Con, are you guys going to do it from Flutter Con?
I haven't quite got to that point yet of figuring out the schedule, so I'll post on a tweet once we have a definite or not. So hopefully.
So we may not be here next week.
It's always a may. We try our best, and we do get this every time. This time every week, hopefully. So
Yeah.
Okay. Let's jump straight into it.
Keep it moving along. Now Simon asked me to do this section extra slow today. No, I'm kidding.
Sure.
Be nice, be respectful, don't be an idiot. Don't post anything that's adult, rude, offensive, otherwise against common sense. Don't advertise or promote anything. We all know you need a job. Do not spam the same question repeatedly. Every time you ask it, it goes to the bottom of the list, even if you were next. Harassment of any kind is not tolerated at the event. Incels, bigotry, misogyny, stupidity. And they will not only be blocked from here, we will share your name around to everybody else who can block you from their stuff too. And lastly, make sure you have a good time, and Simon needs to stop checking his phone.
Have a good time.
Come on, get on the next slide. Keep it moving.
It's all good. Welcome to the stream. My name's Sam Lightfoot, Flutter Community Leader, CTO at Dev Angels London. You can follow me on Twitter /X at Dev Angels London. You also find me helping to co-organise Flutter London when we can with George Medvey, who's in the stream in the chat, and also helping to organise Flutter Con and other community things. And a little caveat: we don't work for Google. Just FYI.
Yes.
Right, Scott.
There is no one here who works for Google. My name is Scott Stahl. I am also Flutter Community Lead, organizer of GDG Cleveland, write code underneath the moniker Good Dog Apps. Like to play around with AI, and I do a lot of speaking and possibly developer advocacy. Next.
Randall, what's the stage?
And I'm Randall Schwartz. I am a Google developer expert for Dart and Flutter, which means that, again, I don't work for Google, but I get to sit between y'all and Google to try to explain how things work nicely. And I'm also, for this show, I am the question magician, which means that I am watching for your questions that start Q: to be able to put into our queue for the panel.
Thank you, Randall. And we also have Danielle can't be with us today, but we have a John. John, welcome to the stage. Our semi-regular.
Yeah.
We need to get you on up on those slides on there. That's what we need.
Yeah, I haven't made it in a few weeks. Been a little busy with work, but John Weezy, I'm an architect engineer with Microsoft. Been focusing or doing Flutter on the side for many, many years, and publish apps under Apps by John. So,
there you go.
Great.
I was going to say you work for a small company that's applied for an SBA grant. But,
a small company for a little while. I added a new addition the other day. It finally arrived. So the 25 years of being here.
Nice.
Wow.
You got a little bit of stock.
Yeah, a little bit. So, all right. I was just going to put it in the chat so people know, because seems like we have to mention every week, but don't post URLs. We can't see them. Nobody can see them except you. If you have code you want to share with us, post a gist.
Yeah, and then you put the gist hash from the URL into the chat, and we can use that to find it.
Yeah.
Which someone already has.
Yes, I was about to say someone has already done that.
Yes, we have a couple already.
That's a great example here.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say we could jump straight into the questions. I mean, unless
I was going to say, shouldn't we plug FlutterCon a little bit and all the great people there?
Yeah, next week, third to the. Let's see if I can bring it up. 3rd to the 5th. We have
The vast majority of veterans are going to be there speaking. The lineup is absolutely insane. And even people who are not speaking, one of the original Flutter community people from way, way back is Ahmed Abu Lahab. And Ahmed ran what was called the Flutter bus, driving around all over the Middle East. And he spoke to so many people, he gathered 5,000 email addresses. He will be there. So
I spoke to him this morning, and I was like, I need to meet you. He's there for Connect.io today, and I was like, you need to stay. It's been too long. So hopefully that will come to fruition. Yeah, so FlutterCon Europe. There will be a FlutterCon Americas or New York later on in the year. Once this one's over, then we'll concentrate on that. But yeah, you'll find a lot of speakers in the full list somewhere. Something might be broken a little bit. Yeah, speakers. Oh no, I don't know what that is.
Why would they show you?
So there's loads and loads of faces.
I mean, and you're flying so fast, people aren't going to be able to see it. But I mean, everybody from Andrew Dobo at the Flutter team to Dario Olova.
Many.
Yep.
Lots of great sessions.
So, yeah, four rooms over 3 days. 4 tracks over 3 days.
Yeah.
So lots going on.
Yep.
Too much to choose from.
Yeah, definitely. There will be competing sessions.
Everything will be recorded. That is always the plan. And they'll be uploaded. And so if you didn't get to see one, you'll see it on there. I've posted a link in the chat to the agenda. You can also get tickets. And I believe our discount code still works, which is Humpday 25. And that'll get you a discount. So I'll put that in the chat as well.
And want to answer one question real quick. Manish, if you figure that out, let us know. It's usually just introductions, general nonsense, chit chat, and then we answer questions.
And maybe do some live coding at some point.
Awesome.
Talking about which, shall we crack on?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions out there today.
Yeah, really, we're already getting there. Wow,
14 already.
Keeping Randall
Apparently
busy.
There was an overlapping issue from the last time that I can't remember. Were you wondering what handles? I sent a tweet to Simon with a screenshot and talking about the droplet-like shape.
Yeah, I've got the tweet just here. I think what we'll do is we'll actually pick up this from live coding. I don't think we'll do it at the beginning because you have to get through some questions first.
Okay.
But what we'll do is I'll just show it on screen so that people can see what we're talking about.
So we're going to park that then.
Hang on. So this is the point here. It was around the text selection handles. Do you remember this one?
No.
What is
so? This is the problem here is that the overlapping pop-up is getting in the way of the text selection handle there, right?
Yeah.
Were they both supposed to exist at the same time? I mean, are you supposed to be able to do something with text while that's up?
Yeah. So the idea is, can you put this above this, right?
Yeah.
Make it autocomplete somehow in this under the overlay. It's interesting. Strictly speaking, this is the correct order, but you can actually change that Z order. So you can actually get the layer and say, I want to show this one below this one. And you can actually make that. So we can have a look at that. There are ways to do it.
That'll be interesting. So we're going to make an overlay and underlay.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Is it possible that somehow I can copy a widget tree from one app and let's say convert it to bytes or XML or any other network sendable format and receive it on the other side and render it?
Okay. So
didn't we have this one?
No. The problem here is the question is wrong. The question needs to be, I'm trying to do this. How do I achieve it? Not I want to achieve a specific thing, right? You're saying how to copy a widget tree. Is it possible to do this, right? You're already given the solution that you've come up with to solve the problem. What is the problem you're trying? Why are you doing this? That's what needs to be known, right? Yeah. Then we can suggest the correct way of doing it, right? At the moment, you're like, yes, you could do this, but I wouldn't recommend doing it. right? So
Yep.
yeah, Chromic Journey.
Yeah, there may be better ways to do it than you're trying.
Post what you're trying to achieve here and why you want to send it, and then we can then discuss it and give you a recommendation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's move on.
All right, we will keep that one in the list here for a follow-up.
Oh, he just said I'm trying to build a screen share application. So that's it. You take a screenshot.
Yeah, that's
and you
we
send it.
answered this last week.
Yeah.
So what you're looking for is not sending the widgets. You're trying to send an image of the widgets, right? And then when you tap on the other side, if you're trying to do remote control, you tap on the other side. You send the tap events across the wire and have them run on the other app, on the other app, right? That's actually what you're trying to do. So what you're actually doing is there's a what's it called, repaint boundary widget. You get you give it a global key, you get its state, and from that you can get an image from the render object, and then you can then take that, make it a JPEG, compress it. There's lots of different ways you can deal with it, and you just upload it over to a server or send it over the wire directly to the other application.
Silly question. I'm going to break our own rule. I'm going to ask if something's possible. Let's say I'm in my house and I cast what's on my phone to my television.
Yep.
Easy, right? Over the LAN to the TV. Is it possible to cast from Android device to Android device? Or even like Android to an iOS phone? And second question is, could it be done over the internet instead of over the LAN?
Well, okay, so let me explain. So first of all, screencasting. Let's just take the scenario you just said, screencasting from a local Android device to a TV, for example. They use protocols to do that. Those protocols are clearly defined, and you can implement a receiver that is an Android application instead of the TV, because that's exactly what the TV does. The TV is just implemented a receiver for the protocol of Miracast, let's say, and then so you could go probably find a library that's already been made, like a C++ library, use FFI or make it yourself, and receive that data that comes in over the wire and do it. There's a piece of that is discovery. That'll be part of the specification. These use various different protocols. There's like a multicast DNS stuff, MDNS, Bonjour, and a few other different like discovery protocols that work on LAN, so that you can find other devices. And this is so that, like, let's say, give an example, you're on YouTube, and on YouTube you say like cast, you press the cast button, and it lists all your TVs in your house or something like that. Literally, your app sends out a beacon saying, are there any devices out there that I can share to? And all those devices return back, I'm over here, and it populates a list, right? Mm-hmm. That's that simple. And then now you have the IP address and the information to connect to that device. It uses the protocol that's been described for casting to send it over to the device using, it's actually like some XML-based stuff. But the point here is it's all possible. Any app can implement this stuff, right? I think that the point here is, you mentioned that this is over a network, right? Now you can still do that over the internet, right? But you wouldn't use that broadcast. You wouldn't use the micro broadcast discovery mechanism that happens on your LAN. What you'll be doing is saying, what is the IP address? What is the port? What is the password? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And once you've established a connection, you can just send the data that you want to do across that wire, like using the Miracast protocol, right?
Mm-hmm. See what happens? Yes. I get an idea. I ask the question the right way, and it's like just pushing Simon off the cliff and watching the avalanche.
Yeah, and there's actually a ton of Miracast packages out there, but they're all for sending, not receiving, not being received.
There is a ton. There's also a lot of there's quite a few protocols for this now. The names escape me. Miracast was one that came to mind, but there's a few different ones now.
And there's some generic broadcast packages.
You want to look up Universal Plug and Play, or UPnP, which is a networking protocol that's used for discovery, and that's how your computer knows about various different devices on your network, like other computers and stuff.
This could be, if you want to make a name for yourself, Chromatic Journey, this could be a great way to do it, because if nobody else has built a receiver, then you're it.
There are quite a few like things like VLC and a few other ones can play like network streams. Whether or not they're compatible with Miracast is another thing, but yeah, a lot of the time these things are quite straightforward. I mean, let me explain. Miracast is probably not the protocol you're looking for, Chromic Journey, and let me explain why. A lot of the casting is you can stream video, right? But if you're controlling both applications, then just do it yourself in your own way, right? Like, it's probably a lot easier than having to implement a particular protocol. You don't have to encode video, for example. So if you're just sending it between yourself, you don't have to follow the strict rules of Miracast and encode a video so that a TV can receive it. However, if you did that, your other application could receive it at a TV, but you wouldn't be able to remote control. You'd have to add something on top of that to do like your touch control if that's what you're trying to do. Yeah, so yeah, it's a bit complicated, and I think that the thing is, do some research, try some stuff out, just use some apps and see how they work, right? Find some open source products, examine them, do a bit of R&D. Right.
So I want masking with screen share, like a field would have.
I want
See, you
masking
didn't
with
tell us
screen
that
share.
part.
Like a field would appear normally on the server side, but put a black ball render over it on the receiver side. Okay.
So you
so
waited until the ball was this far from across the line, and then you moved the goal.
No, wait. I want masking. Just mask it then. What?
Yeah.
Just take the bit back. You get your pixel offset from your thing, and then you draw it black. You paint it black,
And then send
and
it.
now magically you've blacked it out before you send it.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah. So the difference here is you're running the app on the server side, and then you're sending it to the receiver, right? Not the other way around. Because then you'll actually have that. Obviously, the black box is going to be painted out so that there's no private data being sent. Right? I assume that's what you want, something like that. I mean, a lot of like applications that do screen sharing, they work by actually doing a hook into like the desktop software, and then they will literally do things like only share a window, only like even when other windows pop up, it won't specifically share them and mark them as private. There's flags inside of operating systems to note a window is secure and it can't be shared, things like that. So for example, on Android, you mark your Windows surface as shared, like a banking app would. Whenever you like go to like take a screenshot, you just get black. You just get black. You just won't render it. So there's other ways to do protections as well, and that's already built in to the operating system. So again, are you just trying to screen share to add protection so you don't send data? Like that also could just be built in. It really does depend. Yeah. So hang on. Let me. I just saw the point come in here. I got to catch it. So render repaint was heavy as I had to calculate the offset of a particular field and then draw a rectangle over the captured image and then share it. That's not heavy. That's definitely not heavy. It depends on how you're doing it, right? So the thing here is if you're doing no, don't do that. No, don't do that. So first of all, never register a persistent frame backhaul. That's just bad. Second of all, you're not guaranteeing that you can transmit one frame and process it in a 60th of a second. So you're already going to be processing the next frame before the previous frame was sent and completed, which means you can't get any dropped frames. If your persistent frame callback, you may use it as a reference. I should draw another frame, but only draw it once the previous one has been rendered, right? You need to think about the networking layer is very slow compared to everything else. Like the rendering time you're doing to paint that is teeny tiny compared to how long it takes to transmit that image, that data across the network. Something else you can do, which I will suggest right now, is you can implement two simple algorithms, and you will have a really fun time with this, okay? And that is you take the bits from the previous frame to the next frame, the pixel data, and you XOR them together. And what you're going to find is most of your image hasn't changed, and it will come out white or black, whatever, right? Depending on the thing. This will look like an inverted picture, very much like a what are they called? The things you get from a camera. Negatives. It'll be negative, right? When you send that over the wire, you take the existing images on the screen and you XOR this on top, and it will turn back to color, and it will only change the bits that have changed. If you do this, and then you compress it using deflate before you send it over the wire, all that white space that's on your screen that never changed will be compressed down to practically nothing, and you'll get a much better throughput through the wire. And there's even algorithms that do this on a block by block level. Like you don't have to have an algorithm, just split the screen up into 32 blocks and have an index that goes across with it. And now you only have to send the bits that change. Even better. So there's a lot of ways to improve your networking bandwidth and what you send. Don't send what you don't need to send is the answer, really, right? It's as simple as it gets, but it's a bit more complicated than that. But so at the end of the day, there are ways around this prompt journey. But yeah, don't use a persistent callback handler if you're trying to just capture on each one. No. Because you can't, like locally, you might guarantee 60. You're never going to guarantee. Hell, an app can't even guarantee 60.
I'm just sitting here thinking that there's nobody under 35 who's going to understand what a negative is.
I know. I was thinking that when I said it, and then I was like, "Oh shit." Anyway,
he was already too far down that rabbit hole.
He had his momentum up, so I just let it keep going.
Yeah, there's no trouble. This is why we're here, and it also means that imagine how much information has been passed on to everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's.
Yep. And it's and it's also about all the stuff we talk about along the way. Although I normally would never say this, however, we're half an hour into the show and we have 19 questions ahead. We may have to cut it.
Well,
in reality, a question takes about 5 minutes.
Next question. Let's go.
Next question.
So we've got an hour and a half ahead of us already.
That's next question.
No.
Next one.
How do you think? Not very well. What steps do you follow to build a project? First, I would do Flutter create. Solve bugs, I call Simon. Understand something properly, if you figure that one out, let me know.
I mean, the simple answer to this is practice.
Yeah.
How to build a project properly is by building lots of projects and understanding the best way of doing it, right? Solving bugs, that comes from finding lots of bugs and having to fix them. Understand something properly, it comes with lots of practice of trying to understand stuff. And you realize, this is how best to understand this. Is the best way to do it. I don't think I can. I mean, can you think of any good? I can't think of a good way to explain that, right?
Well, no, but the thing that I'd say, and Randall and I see this all the time on like Discord and stuff, is a lot of people don't know the tools that are available to them to help with the debugging, right? So dig into the developer tools, understand how to use them. Even basic stuff like adding debug print statements to see what current values are, or using the watch window, or things like that.
Using a debugger.
Yes.
So many people don't use a debugger, don't know how to step through code.
Oh, you'd be surprised how many times I say, well, set a breakpoint. Well, how do I do that? It's like, well, wait a minute. Set a breakpoint on that line, and when you hit it, see what the value is.
Life is not difficult debugging until you realize your processor only supports 4 hardware breakpoints, and that's your limitation. Then you go, oh my god, how am I going to debug this problem? What's 4? Anyway, go on.
One of the things that I want to figure out is, I don't know if it happens with VS Code, but with IntelliJ, when you go into debug mode and you get little linter warnings, they don't pop up if you hover over them anymore in debug mode. They do it in regular development,
but not when you're running.
But if you're doing an actual debug build, and it's so frustrating because you'll see a linter error, you'll hover over it, and you get nothing.
No, I had that problem.
Yeah, I have to check.
What I know is
I don't know.
I
don't know if you have
like,
code
probably,
shows them or not.
I was gonna say it might be your configuration or your installation of Flutter. Or
I don't know. I've looked
cache.
around, and it's happened on every install of IntelliJ on every computer, and that's 4 computers now. So I don't know. That's the reason I don't use the debugger very much, is just because I lose some other functionality that I need. Now, as far as
you're saying, insert.
Yeah,
you get all that insert. Yeah.
Anyway, we can talk about that later. I was just throwing it out there.
If you pause the debugger, you won't, because now you're in debug mode. So when you hover over something, you're getting the value of the variable.
Yeah.
Right. That is in debug mode. That's not what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm trying to understand. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right. It's if you get certain errors, then you know how normally you hover over it and it tells you what the error is. That doesn't work anymore when I go into debug mode. Anyway, that's an aside.
Yeah.
Solving bugs and understanding something properly both do go together. And Simon calls it experience, but Simon has expert's disease. He doesn't break down what experience actually means. What this actually means is you have to do it wrong. And then what you learn from trying to figure out how to fix it is how you really learn and understand something. So you do it wrong, you get frustrated, you try to fix it. You learn about 5 other different things that you weren't focused on while you're trying to figure it out. And that's where your real education comes from. There's a saying I came up with years ago. It's you can measure wisdom. All you need is a pair of calipers, because you measure the thickness of the callus on someone's forehead from slamming their head on the desk. Okay, the thicker that skin is, the more wise they are.
Funny it was that simple.
All right, moving on.
Next.
What was that? What was that NKCD, which was like measuring like the quality of someone's code by how many WTF someone has when they're reading it?
You know, and another thing that kind of aggravates me a little bit is people trying to learn how to use comments properly or not trying, because folks, there are better uses for comments than to try to coordinate Taco Tuesday.
I mean, another part of this is just like making sure your comments are not stating the obvious. It is actually a knack to write good documentation, and it's not like I'm trying to think of like child, like you see your widget child, right? You document like this variable, and it's like the child widget. Well, duh, right? like you know, you can say that, but then state what is this child widget used for? How is it being used? You know, like
yeah,
a lot of documentation.
Ignore the unity rule of 1 comment per line of code. Please don't do that.
No. Comment the non-obvious. Why are you using an algorithm, you know, that isn't, you know, explicitly easy to understand when you look at it, you know?
Well, and also,
why did you put this? Why did you put this random pause in your code? Future delayed.
Future delayed 5 seconds. Wait, what?
No, it's a future delayed 18 milliseconds. This covers 1 frame of graphics, just in case or something like that. It's like, what? Go on.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Please don't do
God.
that. Anyway, go on.
But I mean, I'll throw a comment in if I've got a method that's like more than, I don't know, 12 to 20 lines. I'll just throw a comment at the top of it saying, this does this. So that way people won't have to read the whole method. You just read 1 sentence at the top of it and you know what it does. You can fold the code, move on. All right.
Right.
Could we compare Sentry and Firebase Crashlytics? Yeah, we could. How come Firebase needs native setup and Sentry doesn't? Ask Sentry?
No, so Sentry just uses a RESTful API to report everything.
Yeah.
Firebase Crashlytics was originally a separate product called Crashlytics.
Yeah.
It was built by Firebase. It was a standalone product that was a compiled library. They don't release the source code. And I don't know if I don't think Crashlytics has been open source. I think it still is private. I'm not. I don't think there's APIs that you can call to do it yourself. So you have to use the Firebase libraries. And annoyingly, with the whole Firebase ecosystem, is to use that, then you have to include like the Firebase core and a bunch of the other Firebase libraries. So it is what it is. But that's the reason why. One prefers to use its own closed source native stuff, and the other one's open source. And that answers that one. To be fair, the other side of this is you don't really get the you don't get as much flexibility with Crashlytics, right? Than you do with Sentry. Sentry gives you a lot more flexibility to do reporting. I think the problem here is it's a lot. It can be. To be honest, I was going to say it can be, not anymore. I think Sentry is really easy to set up. It used to be quite a bit more complicated to set up, but that's one of the reasons why most people try Crashlytics, because it's super simple. You just add Crashlytics, follow the guide, and you're done, right? But now Sentry is the same way pretty much. So.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, I haven't tried it lately. I know Firebase was stupid simple to set up last time I did it.
Okay.
Yeah, the annoying
we
thing
have
really
over an hour and a half of questions lined up, so we might want to keep them short.
Normally, the problem is not actually set up Firebase Crashlytics, but set up Firebase as a project.
Yeah.
Create a Firebase project, allocate all things, set up the bundle IDs, the package names, and the keys, and the SHA hashes, and all the other nonsense that goes with it.
Yep.
And then get your Google JSON file, getting that in there, get it configured with Android and iOS. You suddenly realize all this stuff you have to do,
and then
just to get it to work.
Enable Crashlytics and add this line to your code, and you're done. Yeah.
So it'd be so much nicer if it was just drop this block of code in and it just does it, right? That's what Sentry is. Sentry is add this block of code, copy the API key, whatever it is from the Sentry website, and you're done. So, but they used to have to do a bit more in terms of setup, but now it's a lot easier. Right.
Okay. Yep. Could you give a general idea on what steps I have to follow for push notifications with my own server?
Okay.
There are a few packages. Okay. Which one might be good?
Okay. This is again another question.
You sound like Joe Pesci. Okay.
My brain just broke for a second. I was just like, you say your own push server. What do you mean by that? Because you can't just make your own push server and expect it to work.
Nope.
That's not how it works.
I would suspect they mean they have a server that does stuff on the back end and they want to send push notifications from it.
Well, this is the question, right? So if you just want to send push notifications to an Android or iOS device from your back end server, right? That's not push server. That's just a server, an API. Then just call the API for Firebase. Firebase has a send API, FCM send. Where is it?
Sorry, my fan was freezing me.
Yeah, because I think when you set it up in Firebase, I think there's actually a test page that they use that just calls the API to send.
Yeah, let me share this on screen. Actually. Coming through.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is build an app server. Build app server, send requests. Yeah. So use server protocols to send messages, and pick your whatever language you want. We can use their REST API. You fill out whatever your project is with your bearer token, and you send your JSON, and that's it. And then it's up to you to keep track of your tokens. So you would have in your API for your app. When you get the token on the app side, it sends it to the server and attaches it to the user's account. When you go to send a notification to that user, you get all the tokens attached to that person's account, and you send a message to it. And if any token comes back as non-existent anymore, or unregistered, then you remove it from your list. That's it. Simple as it gets. Oh, and if the user logs out, then you remove their current token from that list. Because a token is not attached to a user at all. It's attached to the installation of your app on that device. Now, what you can do when it comes to Apple is you configure Firebase cloud messaging with the APNs. That's the Apple Push Notification Service authorization key. You get that from Apple. It's all documented inside of Firebase here. And in doing that, then what happens is when you send a push notification just like this, it will go out to an Apple device as well, or the token will be for an Apple device, basically. And that's it.
Thank goodness it is documented by Firebase, because goodness knows nothing is documented by Apple.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, it's not great. So yeah, you can do other things, like if you want to broadcast, you can send to a topic, and then an app can register for that topic. So let's say you had like general marketing or something like that. You could then send out push notifications to a topic, and then all that people that subscribe in their app to marketing will receive it, right? Stuff like that. So yeah, I'll send you this link in the chat. And but you don't have to use the REST protocol. There is libraries for all the different languages.
Yeah.
Just checking something real quick. All right.
Yeah. So he did send a follow up. Correct.
That's what I was checking
exactly
for.
what we're saying. Yeah. Exactly what we're saying.
Okay. Cool.
When something triggers my backend, I want to send a notification. The backend calls Firebase. Yeah, it depends on what your backend's written, but you've got a REST API, so you can just call the REST API, and it's all documented on Firebase website. Oh, if you've got your backend, sorry, I do have to say, if you have your backend written in Dart, the Google APIs package on pub.dev supports FCM, so you could just use Dart code to send push notifications.
Firebase cloud messaging.
There's people wondering what it stands for.
What's FCM?
We have beginners watching this, hopefully. Don't bet on it. All right. How much is it okay to dig into something instead of going into a rabbit hole? For example, understanding layout provides a good view of how layout works. The answer to this one, in all seriousness, is it depends.
That's my answer.
Question, my first question is, are you under a deadline? That's a huge thing to keep in mind. I mean, if you're under a deadline, you don't have time to go dig in.
Learn what you need to get it done, and that's it. And then
you do the minimum to make the app go and move on. Whereas if you have some time, then yes, you can take the time to educate yourself. Now, this unfortunately does have a lot to do with what my last 2 weeks has been like, because I'm trying to set up something for working with remote Flutter widgets, and it's a retrieval augmented generation system, a RAG system for AI. And this has been the most horrific experience of yak shaving I have ever had in my life, because the tutorial code is old and I have to troubleshoot it, and then the server's not running right and I have to figure out why, and then WSL2 is having its goofiness, and then in this one tutorial it says start the server. Doesn't tell you which server, just start the server. So there's another hour lost trying to figure out what on earth they're talking about. And for those who don't know, yak shaving, in short, you're trying to accomplish A. Oh, but this is broken, so you have to fix B before you can do A. Oh, wait, you don't have the requirements and the prerequisites for B, so now you have to go do C before you can do B. Wait a minute, the code in C is old and needs to be troubleshot, but you don't understand the package they're using, so now you got to go to D and fix D to C to B to A, and all you want to do is A. I spent 2 weeks yak shaving in order to set up a RAG system. And finally got
big hole. He dug a big hole.
And it just went from hole to hole to hole to hole to hole. None of them were deep, but it looked like I had a gopher in the front yard that just was on drugs.
You just described it a lot of programmers. You can't predict or know what is involved in doing a task, because it can lead on to one thing, it leads on to another, leads on to another. Mm-hmm. The one thing I would say is, if you do get to that situation, step back, reevaluate how you're approaching it. Maybe there's a different approach that doesn't involve you going down that path, right? But yeah. So yeah, how is it much okay to dig? I'd say dig into rabbit holes, but do it in your spare time, right? So that's the other side of this, right? So go and so let's say you're doing your whatever you're trying to do during the day, and then you spend your evening times just rabbit holing. It's so much better to spend that time rabbit holing, learning things, going down the rabbit hole about a topic and understanding it. Broaden your knowledge. It can only help when coming back and trying to fix your own bugs and issues. You get this is an interesting thing that happens as you broaden your knowledge. You get a new issue come up, and then now you have information that you can relate it to, right? And suddenly you realize, oh, the next thing comes up, and you're like, I already know that. I already understand that. Like I can make that relationship. So.
Yeah, and it's when you're doing yak shaving, you do get a bunch of pieces of knowledge, but instead of one flat solid thing like a board, you end up with something like a ladder, where you have all these little pieces of knowledge and a lot of empty space in between. Because you didn't actually set out to try to learn that thing. You just tried to figure out what's the bare minimum I can do in order to get this other thing to work.
Yep.
But there is a thing that happens that as you build up this picture of knowledge, should we say, you see the spots that you're missing, and now because you have the concepts around it, you know what to look for to fill that knowledge gap, right? You know what to Google. You can start going down that rabbit hole to fill the gap in knowledge to solve whatever problem you're having. Anyway, let's move on because we'll be on here forever. But hopefully that helps.
1 second. And I am typing here in the chat too. We have more than enough questions for a 2-hour show in the queue right now. We've got to cut it.
Yeah, Randall's mentioned
yeah.
No more questions.
Yeah, we've still got 18 to go, and we are already 45 minutes in.
Yep.
If we get to more, we'll get to more. But let's clear what we got right now.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So part 2 of this, well, it's a different question, but
another question.
When should we consider using a custom render object instead of a regular widget?
When you need to custom render something.
When a regular widget won't do it.
Sorry. I think we went through this in a couple of times, right? So a couple of last couple of streams. At some point, I created a custom render object, multi-child render object widget, and this was to achieve some magical layout that was really hard to achieve with existing widgets.
Yeah.
I did this actually recently with. I was working on a wizard, like a pager, which you had to go through steps. It had show some dots at the bottom, and it had a back and next button, right? Sorry, next and previous button, and I wanted them to be the same width as each other, right? But intrinsically the same width as each other.
Yeah.
How do you do that? There's no layout in Flutter that you can do that with. You measure both intrinsically, and then you go, okay, now position them and lay them out as that size. That was the largest intrinsic size that was width that was done. It took me a few minutes, did it, solve my layout problem. To do that with the layout widgets, I would have been doing some crazy thing with like global keys, getting the render object size box, setting some notifier, so value notifier, and then having it rebuild the 2 widgets at that new size box width or some other crazy thing. And it's like all this like logic and behavior for a simple method that could be a layout method, right? So I think it's about weighing what you're trying to achieve and how many widgets you're trying to do it with and what you're trying to do. There's benefits to using certain widgets. Like they don't just maybe size, they do semantic stuff, right? And accessibility. These are things you might have to consider doing your own widgets. But I just say there's no short answer as to when should you consider. You should always be considering it. And every time you build a widget, you say, am I doing the right thing? But I think it's a case of knowing when to choose it. And I think
it's knowing when you banged your head against the wall long enough to try and render something the way you want it with just regular widgets.
So if you've added another millimeter.
Here's the thing: if you're fighting the existing, it's the same thing I say. If you're fighting the material design widgets, do it yourself with the normal widgets.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer fitting the criteria of what material design is. So do it with your own widgets, and then you go, well, if I can't do it with the regular widgets, then you make your own layouts. You make your own layout widgets.
Well, and sometimes it's a good, if you can't do it with the regular widgets, you want to pause and take a moment and ask yourself why. Because are you trying to do something that goes against the ideas of material design? Are you trying to reduce the size of a touch target, which is just going to frustrate people because they're sitting there tap, 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 and they can't hit the stupid target? Are you making something, well, I guess we wouldn't run into color schemes that for the colorblind that violate that with a widget issue. But yeah, the first thing to do is ask why, because you might be doing something you're not supposed to. Also, one other thing real quick, and in honor of the fact that the first thing Simon said was use a custom render object whenever, a widget won't do, we need to change his name. So now he's Captain Obvious.
No, Scott.
Anyway, you go ahead and fix that while I read the next question.
I will mention that Alex Price mentioned in the chat, like maybe one question per person next time. We've done that before. Yeah. It doesn't really work because there's a value in having a conversation or multiple questions per person. So I think get the answers, get your question in sooner, right?
Although 5 might be pushing it.
Yeah, I do agree.
No, I mean, we really have 5.
Yeah.
Well,
we can always skip, right? We can always go to some of the other ones and then go back.
What are the related branches, services,
related
domains such as Firebase we should learn and explore? I couldn't give you any.
No, I mean, it comes down to the ones that you need to know, right? I mean, there's some basic stuff. You need to know some basics about storage, some basics about
REST API, I think everybody's going to need to know. Firebase only if you're using it.
Yeah.
JSON serialization, again, is something everybody should know. On-device storage.
Yeah, local storage, backend, yeah. And then it comes down to
those are general principles.
Right.
Even REST API is a principle.
Yeah.
Firebase is actually a particular part of the tech stack.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't for life
How do we
find.
stop a stream inside emit for each in Flutter Bloc?
Before we get off that previous question, I was just looking for this.
Roadmaps. Yeah, there's a bunch of good.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
I'll post this one, and then the subjective roadmap, which is from Alexi.
I'll get that one while you're working on.
I've got it here. It's in the chat. It's in the chat.
Okay.
And then you guys can follow this if you're looking for learning guides. There you go.
Yeah. And the one from Alexi is fantastic, but you don't have to go through all of it.
Right.
In order to really be good enough.
Yeah.
I think through intermediate. Anyway, how do we stop a stream inside of emit for each in
have a stream
Flutter
controller?
Bloc?
Let's have a look. He posted a snippet.
Yeah.
I've got it up on the screen here. Let's have a quick look. You need to name it .dart so we get syntax highlighting, please.
Yeah.
Damn. Right. Okay. Let's have a look. So events, some event type object, sure, add event, item, has a date time, a list of integer data, sure, my block, get stream, yield, emitter. Hang on a minute. Has he got an operation?
No, was he talking about cancelable operation from future?
Cancelable operation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Subscription.
There's another one. Yeah, cancelable operation from future.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, but that's fine.
There it is.
That's just so this is just creating a this creates a future, and if you cancel it, it runs the on cancel.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So can't emit there. So down there, I think is where it's data stream listen. Can't emit here. How to cancel the stream. So in the await there, down below.
Oh, in an await.
How to,
Well,
what?
Awaiting an emit for each. So basically, for each one.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to stay running until the emit stream is cancelled.
Well, but I think that's the question he's saying is, okay, so inside that, basically right in the on data, let's say there's a something comes through that is, you have a reason you want to cancel it at that point.
How can we stop the stream inside emit.for each Flutter block?
I don't think Flutter Block's got anything to do with this.
Well, no, but I think like here, like he's saying, so in the on data, let's say you do something, you check the data, and for whatever reason, you have a flag that you want to cancel at that point.
Yeah, this bit here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's saying he can't emit. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Add data. Okay. Yeah. Oh.
He's emitting. He wants to emit a state change, but I mean, this is more of. I mean, you don't have to. Well, I don't know. Actually, I'm not going to go there. But he wants to emit a state change.
Right.
Return on data to the stream. I mean, that's just a normal Flutter block problem, right? So you've got an emitter, right? Mm-hmm. So you're saying you can't emit. Why can't you emit? Get stream.
Emit here.
Oh, because your stream, you don't close your stream. Wait, what are you trying to? What are you doing here? This is your problem. You've made yourself an infinite loop. You've made yourself an infinite loop that delays for every 1 second. Don't do that.
Oh,
so the problem here is you've got a data stream that you listen to you got a subscription. You cancel that subscription here, so that's good. You need to set the value back to null. You need to set the underscore subscription value to null after you cancel it. Otherwise, it would try and be cancelled multiple times. And emitting state changes, I don't know any reason why that would be a problem that you can't emit from there. What is the error that you're getting? Adding another emit works fine, but I was thinking, why not emit? But why would you want to do emit for each? What this is doing is listening to the stream, the emit stream itself, and each time data is emitted, you're changing it in some fashion or doing something to your state. That's an entirely separate thing. Maybe you need to explain to us what you're actually trying to achieve here, because.
Hang on, I'm sorry, I haven't been watching for 5
No, there hasn't been any updates in there that I saw.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
Folks, we have said many, many times already today that we have cut questions a while ago. I see 3 new questions being asked since we already said no more, please.
Maybe add some comments into this or send them and we can come back.
I mean, we can see if we can. Yeah, at some point we'll see if we run it. But yeah, I'm not seeing what you're trying to do here. You're trying to do a transformation on your emit stream, but why are you trying to do that here? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we'll come back to that, I guess. But
alrighty, I will leave that one parked as well.
Wait, I don't know who the questioner was again, but you don't need to create a async stream for delayed like that. There's actually a stream.timer, I think it is, and it will actually do exactly what you've done there. It will emit a new value each time delay.
Yeah, use
that. Alrighty. And this is your 5th one, and that's your quota for the day. 5. If tree shaking removes unused code when building the release version, is it okay to leave an old code base for future purposes? My first suggestion, maybe my first suggestion, commit it with the old code in it, and then remove it, and the next commit. Because if you ever need the old code, you can always look at another commit. And if
but let me be clear.
If you don't understand that, learn Git, G-I-T.
Yeah. This is as I'm saying, like here, if it's already old code, it's because you've already committed it, right? So
hopefully,
don't just leave code hanging around like unused functions or empty or commented out code. Like never comment out code and just leaving your code base. It has 0 value at that point. Right? You can always go check out any previous commit in your code base and look at the code then, and then copy paste it, use it, change it. You
Of course, if you're going to reuse it in 10 minutes, you probably want to leave it there.
Well, yes, but at some point when you decide that you're not going to be using it, then get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're ready. As I said, if you're ready to, you've got this. The point here is that even though it's tree shaking, it means it still has to analyze. Let's say I know, my app was 100,000 lines of code, and I have 300,000 lines of code that I'm not using in my app. It still has to analyze and develop and work with 400,000 lines of code to know that it doesn't need to include 300,000 lines of code. Right? It's great the end product will only contain the 100,000 that you actually use. Great. That's what tree shaking is, but it doesn't mean you're not going to be developing 400,000 lines.
Well, and here's the thing. If that doesn't scare you, think of it this way. It will take longer to do that than for Gradle to build. That should terrify you.
I think I did a code line count of a current project I'm working on. I think we're on about 600. What was it? It might be somewhere like 600,000 lines of code.
Moving on. In a material app widget that has initial route and routes set, where would you put the stream builder that listens to an auth state changes stream and reacts to it? Pretty much right there at the material app child, just about. I mean, basically wherever you're putting your login screen, which is going to be before your home screen. So,
what was the question?
Where do you put the stream builder that listens for auth state changes from Firebase auth, or whatever other auth?
Again, whatever makes best for your application. It sounds really stupid to say that,
right? But some people won't understand that, Simon.
Right? No, I. That's why I'm saying I'm capping that with like some examples, right? So, yeah, I mean, first of all, you don't need to use a stream builder, right? You can just listen to a stream and then based on the result, change your state. So you can just listen to a stream in your app widget that has the build for Material app and then change how Material app is being built based on that. The other thing to say is that you could have another sort of like host widget that you put inside the builder of Material app that wraps the navigator, and it will just flip out the entire navigation stack when the auth state changes for a completely different flow. If you're using GoRouter has an interesting idea of a refresh listenable and a redirect handler. If you use GoRouter, then you can have a notifier be listened to. When it gets notified its listeners, the GoRouter will rebuild the routes, will call the redirect function, and inside the redirect function, you can say, oh, if I'm not logged in, then and the route you're trying to get to is not the login screen, then don't allow it, return the login screen. And it will redirect all requests to the login screen. So if they were currently on the home screen and got logged out, they'll be redirected to the login screen, show the login screen. All the routers have similar concepts.
Another thing I'd like to throw in there when dealing with auth state changes, as Simon said, you don't have to use a stream builder, but it gets even simpler than that. There are people who will tell you to use an animation builder for that. There are people who, you could use a value notifier. Anything that's going to trigger a consumer widget, anything that's going to trigger a change when your auth state changes is good enough. Anything that's going to rebuild. So if you use a value listable builder, that's fine. Again, you could use Bloc, you could use Provider, you could use RiverPod. Like I said, you could even just skip all that and just use a value listable builder with a value notifier. 1,000 ways to do it.
Here is, I'm going to bring this up because here is a really, really old. When was this done?
Oh, jeez.
When was this done?
You're kidding me? That one?
I typed in my gists. I've got gists. What was it? 2019. There you go.
I was going to say, Simon, even null safe. Don't show that.
Doesn't matter. The point here is, here's an example here. Look, Navigator. This is using Navigator 1. So here's a Navigator. Here's a current Firebase user. We listen to the all state stream. And when it changes, if the current user was null and it's not null, that means they've logged in. So now we redirect them to the main screen. And when they're now logged out, so they logged out, they get taken to the login screen. And then here on the top level, we change what screen we're going to choose based on if they're logged in or logged out when the app starts up.
Pay attention to what Simon's saying. Close your eyes. Okay, because this code not only has absolutely nothing to do with, it's there's no Go router in here whatsoever. So if you look at that code and think it doesn't match what you're doing, you're right.
Yeah, but
plus, I think it really is pre-null safety.
No, it's not. No.
All right. In any event, did you try the new engine Impeller? It's so laggy and slow on the default Flutter counter. I don't know if it's hardware issue or something else is not right. On Skia, everything works fine. First question, which platform? Android, iOS, Mac desktop, Linux?
What device as well? Like what version of Android? On what device?
Something, it's not the Impeller engine. Something's wrong.
Yeah. Now it could be. Don't get me wrong. It can be a bug in the Impeller engine if it's like Android is still like fresh, right?
Well,
I'm not saying it can't be.
But if the default counter app is,
that's what I.
Oh yeah. No. But that's what I'm trying to say. But that could still be a bug in the Impeller engine.
It could
on that because of that device or that Android version or whatever, right?
Right.
So I'm not. So hang on. I will say that you need to Nadir run it in release mode and make sure we see what happens when you build the app in release. Also, if you're running this on a emulator, that's also going to have impact on how laggy it is based on the actual emulator as well.
Android 13, but emulator, real device.
Yeah. So, yeah. Frankly, I've never seen it be laggy. So I would put this down to something else, but it could always be a bug. And definitely report it. If you find it being laggy, make an example that explain what you're doing, get all the information, report it on Flutter, the Flutter repository.
Yep.
And they'll take a look.
I do have one other point.
Mention Impeller.
Is there any chance it was working fine and then you ran a Flutter upgrade and suddenly it's not working fine? Because that would be a big flag for a bug.
Well, that's the other question. Are you on what branch are you on? Are you on master? Are you on stable? Are you on beta? Are you
Also, if you do a Flutter upgrade, always do a Flutter clean. So many times do I see people not do this. Like you're going to have cached files for the previous version that may be incompatible with some other things, right? Always do a pub upgrade and a Flutter clean when you upgrade your version.
Back to one of the first questions about debugging.
Yeah, really.
Talking about debugging, I do want to mention this because it's something that solves so many problems, and that is if you're trying to demonstrate something or test an idea, make a new project. Don't work in your existing. Make a complete new project.
Yep.
Throw something together.
Yep.
Test out the concept. You're not going to have any of the other code or the other stuff being involved, and you don't have to alter that code to make your stuff. Like you're going to have a fresh.
Especially since it's a default app. I mean, you should just be able to Flutter create and check it.
You're just making it a scratch pad basically.
And even Dartpad. Many times I just open Dartpad if I'm just trying to figure out a layout or something simple. You can just do it right in there, and you don't have to have the whole, local UI.
What was it?
Or
IDX, Vandal's new favorite.
Yeah, there we go. Bouncing back to the previous question for a moment. Thanks for the clarification. Meant to specifically ask about the initial route with route solution with Stream Builder without any notifiers or state management or third-party packages.
Right. So build your material app with one key, show your splash screen until you get to know if they're logged in or logged out. and then start a material app with a new initial route with a new key, with your initial route of logged in or home screen or whatever.
Yeah.
There you go.
Alrighty.
The key here is that your sets. If you change the initial route after the material app has been built, it won't apply it because it's no longer initial, right? The user's navigated since then. So you need to make sure it's got a different key because then it's a different material app instance, right? So, yeah, you want to do like you do a stream builder around your material app, and then have an if statement inside there. If it's not loaded yet, or if it's still loading, show a material app with a splash screen or something with a key with a home splash or something. Yeah,
We have something unusual. We have a question for John.
Yeah, I saw that
How to
one.
update Flutter app to support foldable devices. There is a person who pioneered Flutter on mobile devices who worked at Microsoft, who still does work at Microsoft, and he's on the screen.
Yeah, and also one of our other folks did a lot of work there to bring it. But I mean, this is actually a multi-part. I think so. From a foldable device perspective, Google has a lot of great info out there, and I threw one in the private chat if you guys want to share that out.
Sure.
But they have there's a couple of code labs, and there's a lot of good documentation on large screen, which is what we would classify it as, right? It's a foldable is no different than a tablet. So there's some really good documentation and code labs. There's a Material 3 code lab on doing the menuing and stuff to use a rail versus a nav bar and stuff, and how to animate it and make it change based on dimensions and all that fun stuff. So that's another good one to walk through. But there's a lot of good docs out there. We helped get a lot of the stuff that's out there into Media Query now that helps you do some of this stuff with a package that we wrote initially for the Surface Duo, which is our foldable 2-screen device. So it allows you to build your app and tell it what you want on each side, or display it in the whole thing. And so and when we did that, we actually attacked it from a large screen device perspective, not two separate screens. So we kind of split it up as, what do you want shown in the side, and what do you want shown as the main? And on a 2-screen device, it just becomes the left screen and the right screen. But on a large screen, it actually displays kind of like your typical, gutter on the left with your menu or whatever it is, your email list, and then the details on the right. And then you can control that sizing when it's a large screen device. But on a 2-screen device, it just automatically knows, okay, that's screen A and screen B. So there's a lot of stuff there, but a lot of good docs out there. If you just search for Flutter large screen support, you'll find.
Now, quick question, silly question. I know that when it opens up, you can consider it one screen portrait. Will it do one screen landscape as well?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So if you really, really want to master responsive design, make it work for a narrow screen both ways, and then open both ways.
Yeah, and a lot of it you get for free if you just follow some of the documentation and do stuff. But yeah, some of it you do have to be a little bit careful about. But yeah, I'd say definitely look for those guidelines, and the stuff that's out there from Google is really good stuff. I actually use some of it in some of our.
For the life of me, I can't find. I was using one of the show functions, like show dialogue or show bottom sheet, the other day, and it had what screen, basically what screen do you want to show it on? I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
and that was some stuff that we built originally into the package that we created, which then got pulled into Media Query or into the dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember where the hell I saw it now, but yeah, I know that Media Query has, was it feature?
Yes.
Display feature off, yeah. So
display feature. Yep.
So this gives you display features and then display features.
Right, and that all came out of our
Hinge
package.
Cutout file.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So Andre Dinascu is one of our engineers who worked on building the package initially. That's out there. So if you go searching, there's a package from Microsoft in PubDev for foldable devices, or I don't think we called it foldable. I think we called it large screen or multi-screen or something like that. But
yeah, so you kind of support cutouts, and if you've got a hinge, and then also if you've got a fold and you've got a hinge like this. So,
yeah, and that's
we had this before, didn't we? Because we were speaking about this when you first doing this a long time ago.
Yes,
and it was you display something that traversed the screen, and do you hide what's behind it? Do you account for this space? Like there's some interesting dynamics that you get with this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. Yeah.
Does safe area pick up that kind of hinge?
It does not.
No, this is a different thing. So it's what's called a display feature.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. We added a display feature as a way to indicate what's there and what's not. So you get your list, and you can walk through it, and then based on the type, you can do stuff. If you need to do specific rendering.
And it gives you the state as well, which is quite nice. So let me bring this back up. So yes,
so you can so you know the posture,
flat, half open,
and all that. Yep.
All right, moving on.
I'm wondering when we get flexible screens, like, is it curled? Is it half curled? Is it 90 degrees open?
And Andre did a blog post. I'll post our blog. So if anybody wants to dig
I want to know something though with these flexible screens. What I want to know is if you twist it into a Mobius strip, what are the screen dimensions?
Yeah, that's
double dot infinite. Right. Let's go.
Yep.
All right. Next. I've created a shelf server running locally and can connect it with the local client web app. But when I push the client to Firebase, I get an XML HTTP request error. Is this a CORS issue? HTTP versus secure.
It will tell you in the log of the browser if it's a CORS issue. It will say CORS issue. This and the and probably yes, because XML HTTP requests or AJAX requests, as they're also called, do require CORS. The simplest way of fixing it is just to add headers to your output. There is a standard for this. I'm going to find the one time I want to find it.
We closed off questions a long time ago. Sorry. We can talk about it next week.
For anyone that's interested, what CORS is, Cross-Origin Resource Sharing, or CORS specification, is implemented the browser site to stop people from taking resources from other servers and other websites for their own. And it talks about how you implement this in all the various guises of your server-side software. Dart and Shelf is not on here. It should be. However, there is a wonderful package on pub.dev which actually does it for you. Shelf CORS, I believe it's called. Let me bring it up. This is the one, I believe. Shelf CORS headers, and it adds it as a middleware. So you just add CORS headers as middleware, and magically you get your CORS headers. To be honest, that's not it. What you really need to do is override the specific headers to put your domain in there. That's what you should do, and also what content types you're allowing to be accessed through CORS. But there's lots in this library, and it does it. So this is what you're looking for, and I would recommend. And basically, if you host any API, for any website, you're going to need it. So, Michael, you're going to need to implement that.
All right. One of two. I've watched Randall's video on this. Well, sorry, he's not here. He asked next week. I've watched Randall's video on this, but still struggling to understand if global mutable variables are bad. Then I'd assume global static functions are bad too if they manipulate state. Okay, there's a difference. I get it. And then I hear, well, you can only access providers if you have a ref and provider scope. But since we put the scope at root, we technically have global access. Okay, what you're missing in part is the reason global variables being mutated is terrible is because they can be changed from anywhere. And let's say something's going wrong with it. And now you ask yourself, well, what's changing this variable? Well, I don't know. There's 100 different methods all over my app that have access to it. That's the bad thing. Now, if you have a function that's global, but it doesn't actually change a value that's global, that's not necessarily a terrible thing, because you're running the function, but still
You know where it got
changed. Yeah, is in a specific place. It makes it easier to run down problems, and also I guess security issues. At least used to be or still are a problem with it. Okay, now this is where Simon says I'm wrong.
No. I was gonna say, so first of all, let's just jump back to part one here. It's also the global variables are also on exactly. Scott nailed it on the whole debugging front. That is one big thing. The other side is that you need to make sure that you're resetting that state. So if you do change some, I don't know how. Let's say I'm trying to think of a good example of this. I'll give you here's a good example of where global state could be bad. Let's say you make an API calls to the server and you have a global variable for the last error that occurred, so you can display it in the UI, right? So what happens is you make these requests and they're all going off, and each one that comes back sets that last error that occurred.
You lost
the last
the
error came from which one?
Right.
And then when the UI gets displayed, it displays from that last variable, but then that might have been overwritten now by another API call that was going off. And now you just displayed an error for a completely different call to the one the user tapped on. I mean, like, these are things that can happen because there's no longer any context to the variable, right? It's global. And that's about how you use global variables, right? So that's one thing. And then also knowing that when you do change that state, you have to reset the contents of the global variable, making sure it's back to null or back to the default value. Otherwise, you have this old data about the state of your application lying around that you can't clear, right? Or you don't know that you should clear it, right? So it's harder to manage them. So it's best to stay away from them. And you said about global accessible static functions. All functions, all functions. All functions are effectively static. Let me
don't do that to them.
Explain. No. I need to explain this because you don't. When you create an instance of a class, you're not copying the code of that class, right? The code of that class exists once when you compiled it, and when you run that function, a method of a class, it's being given the object that the class that it's in. It's being given the instance of that object as like a hidden parameter called this, right? So that's under the hood. It's not a parameter on your function, but it is being passed to it. Your code is the same code that runs on all instances of that class, right? Everywhere that you instantiated a variable of that class, it uses the same piece of code, right? It's a bit more complicated when it comes to lambdas and stuff like that. But in essence, it doesn't compile on the fly new code, right? Your compiler does that when you build your app. Once it's been compiled, that's it. It's done. So effectively, all functions are static. It's not the function itself that's the problem that it's static. It's the state that it's working on, right? So that's the variables that it's working on. It's about how you manage those. All right. So that's that. That's part one.
And also, real quick, if the word "this" went right past you, maybe you know Python, in which case the equivalent is self.
Yeah. It's basically contextually the object that you're in, right? The class that you're in when your code is running. Some language even let you override that, which is even more chaotic. But anyway, also you talk about the providers here. Again, the providers are only referencing statically as references to how it's laid out. When you create an instance of that provider, it's not the same global variable. That instance is stored in the provider scope. And the scope, even though it's at the root, it's not global. It does not have global access, right? When the providers talk to each other, they're talking based on references that are being passed around. They're not talking to the global instances of the provider definition, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's one of the complex things around Riverpod, right? Whereas you describe your thing statically, which gives you the benefits of static compilation, gives you the benefits of debugging, gives you the benefits of understanding and some other things. However, when it's running, it's instantiated, right? So you get instanced versions of those things. So it's a balance of both, but it's a really interesting idea. Conceptually, I'm not sure I like it, but but because it can be taken both ways, and the problem that you're understanding right now is it's complex.
So I'm not sure of this. I'm taking a educated guess. Let me see what Simon and John think. One of the tricks when you're looking at a provider declaration that is global, it is only accessible through the provider scope. So you could think of it that that's a controlling choke point. Another way to think of it possibly is the provider scope definition is only a definition. That's not the actual one you're working on. Whereas it might create an instance of it in the provider scope, and therefore it is still not global.
Yeah, that's what it does.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not actually working on the definition that you've created.
All the global variables for Riverpod are just that definitions. They're not what the functions that you provide are the code that runs,
right.
But they run on instantiated references, which are coming from that are stored inside the provider's scope, because that's why the whole idea of having the scope that scopes the variables, right? The scopes the providers, right?
So they're not global. They're just definitions for something that's going to be created.
If you want to, let's say you want to restart your application and destroy the state, you just provide a different key to your provider scope. Boom, that's it. Next time it rebuilds, you got there's lots of ways of doing that, but you don't need to keep what's inside the provider scope. So there's like a bunch of you've got controlled disposal of your state.
What? Michael, we were supposed to bump your question down because you've asked it twice.
Well, it's exactly the same question. Is it exactly the same question?
Yeah.
Or was it?
Yes.
Okay.
Here we go. My goodness, we're down to 5 questions.
We're almost done, and I've got to jump.
Yeah, we're almost at a pace that will end on 2 hours.
Fun.
I'm using an image picker from the latest version. I keep getting this error in iOS only. Well, there's your problem. Invalid image cannot load representation of type public JPEG. Some error thing from iOS. It has been said, apparently by some people, that it's the simulator, but it also occurs on the actual device. Tried all versions, I'm assuming, of the package, and the same issue remains. Any suggestions, alternate stable image pickers? My suggestion is to tell your clients to use Android, but
no, interesting enough.
I am notorious for hating on iOS.
To be honest, I've never had a problem with if an image picker being stable.
Yeah.
I'm going to recommend, though, that you talk about the images. Images can be labeled as JPEG, but be PNGs.
Yep.
So the file says it's a JPEG. Some apps just open it up and go, oh, the contents of the file, it says it's a PNG. I'll interpret it as a PNG. It just ignores the fact that it's called a JPEG, right?
Right. And a program that handles that really well is IrfanView, their viewer. And you'll try to open something, and it will throw a pop-up in your face saying, hey, this is labeled JPEG, but it's actually WebP. Do you want me to change it?
Yeah, and this happens all the time. Like you might get like URLs and things to images. Let's say they're JPEG, but they're not. They're WebPs for when they're accessed by Chrome. Like for example, literally, you're accessing that URL via Chrome. It will serve you a WebP instead of JPEG because it's more less bandwidth and better, right? Blah blah blah. But it doesn't change the URL. So if you to save that image, you save it as a WebP. And you're like, hang on a minute, this is not a JPEG. So I would suggest that that's what this is. You're getting an invalid image because it's an invalid image that you're picking. It's doing its job.
You didn't know. Yeah.
So I would suggest that you check. And there was also another type of. So effectively, there's another type of JPEG, HEVC, which is the high. What's it called? Hang on a minute. Enhanced. High advanced video codec, something like that. HEVC or JPEG images are a different format. They use a different codec to do the compression. And again, if they're not labeled correctly, which again, some iOS apps might just like load them up and not tell you, right? Then that could be another problem. So let me just see if I can. HEIF.
Note,
hang on.
Okay. I didn't think you were ready.
Sorry, HEIF, HEVC media on Apple devices So this sometimes images that say they're JPEGs are actually HEIF, which is high efficiency image format, which is another type of image format that happens on iOS devices. So again, you may just I'll put a link in the chat here about there's a little page about what's the differences between them. That should put you on the right direction to understanding some of the stuff. But I'd suggest that it's just labeled wrong.
Okay, and one other side thing, Christian, I'm looking at your comment there about YouTube chat not being deleted in the streaming software. I'm scratching my head. We don't really actually delete anything. We make a side list of items that are starred and we take them on and off that, but we don't actually delete questions out of YouTube. Unless you're talking about something else.
Well, but if they've included a URL, it will not show up. It will show up in their own, but it won't show up in the actual public list. Yeah. And that's why we never see anything with a URL.
Yeah, if there's a URL in there, you'll see it. Yeah. It won't even show up.
And before I jump, the question was about the image picker. If you're having an issue, you can find Randall and I and many others hanging out in Discord, in the Flutter Dev Discord, where you can ask questions and you can actually share code and stuff where we can help you a little bit more to get to answers.
And the blog and Code Lab link.
Yep.
I also posted in the chat.
Perfect. All right. And then I'm going to have to jump.
John, you can hang out. We've only got through.
No. He's got to go.
I got
a call. I had to move already. So I got to go jump to that one, go run another one. So,
all righty.
See you guys next week, probably.
Take it. Well, maybe if we're not here.
Oh, yeah. No, next week I'll be on a plane to Orlando. Unfortunately, I can't go to Berlin.
So you'll be on a plane to Orlando. I'll be at the Jersey Shore. Simon's going to be in Berlin.
I got to go do the volleyball thing for a week and do the whole national championship scene. So I'll be doing that.
Have fun.
Yep.
Yeah, really.
See you.
Take care. Good luck to your kid.
Ciao.
Yeah, John's child plays volleyball. So I think John might too. Are there any architectural decisions you should consider when deploying a Flutter app specifically for web? Oh, thank goodness it's not another how should I structure my app question. When it's what? It's made for web but only run on iOS, Android? Then why not make it for iOS, Android? I'm so confused.
When deploying a Flutter app specifically for web, when it's only ever ran. No, I think he means he only ever ran it before on iOS and Android. Now he's trying to do it for web. That's what this is saying.
Oh, if it's only ever ran as in past tense.
Yeah.
Okay, not run. Gotcha. That makes more sense.
I mean, routing, yes. Like you should make sure that all your routes have have names and they have parameters, and you're doing routing correctly. That's the only thing I can think of for web specifically. And if you're dealing with any plugins, because of course, you might be dealing with a package or plugin that cannot work on web, right? It doesn't have a web implementation.
I've got a question, Simon. You remember we worked with URL, and what if they were to use a mono repo, make one of the repos web, and treat the iOS and Android repo as if it were common?
Yeah, you
reach
can do
into
that.
It and pluck stuff out as needed.
Yeah. So you could. That's another point, Alex. So what we're saying here is you just create another project for web, and then depend on a common package that contains. You could put all the stuff that's common between web and Android into a separate package, so you don't have to depend on the plugins. That's the other.
Well, and you don't technically now the way you really do this, if you're going to do it from scratch, everything from scratch, the right way to do it is what Simon just said. You make 3 repos and put them in what's called a mono repo. So you make one for web, one for iOS and Android, and then you make one for all the stuff that's common to both. So this is 3 different repos that are put into a mono repo. So all the things that are common to both can be reached into from the other 2. And in the common repo, one of the things you want to do is you make common.dart, and it's an export of every single file in common. Okay, so that way all you have to do is include common.dart, package common.dart. And that will give you access to everything in the common repo for web and for Android. Now, in your case, since you've already got iOS and Android running, that's a lot of work. And you don't necessarily have to do it that way. What you could do is, let's say the iOS and Android is called My Mobile App. Great, fine, whatever. Now you make My Web App. And in My Mobile App, you put a mymobileapp.dart file that has exports of all the stuff that are going to be needed in web. And then you create the mymobileapp.web and have it depend on things that are in the other one. So you don't necessarily have to stuff all your web code into the existing app that you have for iOS and Android. You just need to be able to reach into it sometimes. And okay, I see what Christian's saying. Anyway, but that's the way I would go. But again, one of the tricky things with Flutter is there are so many possibilities. They give you so much rope, you can hang yourself with it. And there are always a bunch of different ways to do things. A lot of it depends on what you're going to be comfortable with and what doesn't confuse you when you try to set it up. So there's that one. And this one right here, I am tempted to not answer this question until she comes on the show. Jessica. Jessica, my buddy. I'm using Share Plus plugin to share a link via SMS or WhatsApp. QA is end-to-end. The flow with Appium and can't find the native share modal to test. Do you guys know the name of this modal for Android and iOS? Come on the show and ask, Jess.
There is instrumentation around all of that, and you can test it if you're trying to do an end-to-end test. I've never used it with Appium. Patrol might help you out here if you're trying to write a test that supports this. The best thing you can do is you can actually use the Android debug tools to actually output the UI tree of what you see on the screen in debug mode. If your app is running in debug mode, then you can actually see all the stuff that the operating system is injected in as well, and that will give you the key information around the overlay. Android ADB. Literally just found, I mean, like, this is 6 years old. I just found something here, which is a tool, UI automation viewer. Pardon me. You install the app and then called Dump UI, and it will give you a breakdown of it. I mean, there's a ton of these kind of things around. Trying to find the one I want. Yeah, UI Automator. ADB. Oh, there you go. Here you go. This is what you want. I'll pop it in the chat here. It's called ADB Shell UI Automated Dump. It's part of ADB now. And it creates an XML dump of the current UI hierarchy. As you can actually specify a file as well. Yeah, I would just say you use the pointy bracket file on the command. Let me bring this up. What I'm looking at here. Yeah. Do I? It's all right. Anyway, another time. But yeah, you can dump that XML file, and in doing so, that will let you see the ID and the name of the various different components, and that should help you use your UI tests, your automation test to find it. Does that help? Hopefully that helps.
Fingers crossed. Well, we've got some feedback, I think.
Someone's also recommended using the Appium's accessibility inspector to view the accessibility hierarchy, which also might be what you want. And yeah, this is the command I was just posting.
Okay.
Anyway,
and a physical device or emulator to capture a screenshot with the accessibility props applied.
There you go.
Nice. Very cool. Gracias, Verde. So with that, I do have a couple other things that I still need to do. I'm amazed we got out of here as quickly as we did. Simon, I don't know if you're going to hang out and do any coding, but I need to go shave a yak.
Yeah. I did. We did say that we were going to so have a look at that Z-index problem. So I think that's good thing to end on. So if you need to head off.
I'm going to head off. We still have this question in the queue.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah. All righty. You all have a good time. I am definitely going to be on holiday next week, so I will see you in 2 weeks.
See you then.
Ciao.
Right. Let's see what I can do here. Bear with. See if we can get something going. That's it. They all left me. That's it. Right, what's today's date? 26th. How's everyone doing? Do we have a sound off in the comments? What's going on? Right. Let's get some code going here, and I'll share the screen. This is not what I want to run. I want to run this. Let's see. Can I share? Okay. Let's get rid of that question. Okay, that works. So the original question was around how we do. Let me bring it in. There we go. It was this one here. Check my previous tweet. Yeah. So basically, the text handle in the text selection appears. You have to tap again on a focused field. You have to drop it shape one. And yes, overlay should be overlay everything. The thing is, how you actually hopefully what's his name? Damn, I lost your question. Are you still here? Is the question. Yeah, it was Zlati. I hope that's how I say your name. Sorry. Put the app on the top overlay. Let's have a look at this. Yeah. So, all right. Let's. Here he is. Zlati. There we go. So, okay. Let's. Are you using a particular package to do this? Or are you just doing this inside Flutter normal, as it were? Because it may be that you're getting a problem with a package here. So let's clear off this old example that I had in here and throw something new together. So home, sure, give me that. Material, let's do a scaffold. Assume is that scaffold you've got at the top layer. Body. Right, let's do this just to give us some content to scroll through. Title, item, index. Yep, that should be a text widget. Oops. Okay, so that gives us some content. I did it all myself because I hate packages. Right. So I mean, there can be some differences if you're using something like an app bar. That's all. So I think there's actually. Do you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to do, Zlati, is there's actually some widgets that I never actually used right into search. Have you tried them? There's like a search bar, isn't there? I think search bar. Yes. Let's have a quick. Search anchor, search bar. Well, there's an example on. But let's. Okay. An overlay shows after I received data, which will detect whether it did update. Try, but can I update the results? What with the inbuilt search bar? I mean, I could see that maybe. No, I can't. No, you definitely can do that with the inbuilt one. How to? All right. Well, let's do this. So let's add a. Let's not worry about officially an app bar, but let's wrap this and do what you were doing, and I can show you how you do this kind of thing yourself. I think that's more. I think people are more interested in that anyway. So let's put a. What do we want? We want a. Let's just do the basic layout here. So you want a back button. We want a text field, form field, was it? We're doing make that expanded. Oops. Right, and then at the end we had a get clear. Let's do an icon button. Obviously, this is not. We're not trying to get exactly what you had, but good enough for an example. I'm going to take these out. Oh yeah, sorry guys, you're all right. The font size is terribly slow, terribly small. Let's adjust that and make things better. I'm so used to that's my normal code size. Hopefully this helps. There you go. Okay, where were we? Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so safe area. Yes, I have. With a dynamic height, yes. But I wouldn't use a custom persistent sliver header for that. I just use my own sliver. So that's how I do that. Icons dot. There's like close in circle. Is it a count? Circle close. It's a circle plus. Here we go. I'm kind of curious just to see. Pulls. Play. No. All right. Let's just do a static close for now. Whatever it is, an X. Cancel. Ah, thank you. See, this is what I hate about the naming. Right. Brevissimo. Cool. Interesting. Why am I getting... Oh, yeah. Don't. Right. There we go. All right. Oh, let me get rid of the Humpday banner. Sorry, guys. I should have said. Right. Cool. So now we've got a back icon. We have our search box, and we have it clear. Let's extract that. Set that widget itself, and we'll make a search bar, app search bar, just to be clear. Right. And what we probably want in our home function is something like, let's do something really silly, like string name equals item, and then void on search result selected string result set state name. This just allows us to make sure it's all working end to end, right? And then we can now pass that in on search result selected, like that, and we'll have a we could even make this like type aware instead of having a string, using generics. Do it the basic way first. Feel free to chat and anything else during here, and we'll get to it. Right. So, okay. So we're already quite a way into this. Let's see. So text form field has an optional controller. We could use a controller. It allows us to do a bit more with the field. I think we will, because we're going to want like the selection information. So we'll have a text editing controller, a query controller, and when we start up and when we dispose, we want to handle that correctly. So we'll have query controller dispose and query controller. We'll create a new instance. And when we create our new instance, we could start up with a value, perhaps. Right. Pass that over as our controller. Okay, it's all very boring right now. Let's see, what have I broken? Why is that? Oh, because it's not const. Yes. Okay, so now we have a bar. What we could do, just because I want to do it, is have a search open flag. And you could do something really simple. Let's wrap this in a material. Let's do colors gray. Light gray, and yep, that'll do me. And then as part of this, we could then say wrap this in a builder. If search is open, then we're going to return back this UX. Else, we're going to return back a row. And that's going to have a expanded text, app title, whatever. There's a caption. I forget. Maybe title window. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Right, and then at the end, icon button on press. Oops. And this can now do set state, search open true. I know no one asked for this, but this is how you do this kind of thing. Icon. Right. And then when you pick cancel, we're going to say set state. Search open is false. In fact, what we can do now is pull these functions out here. And what we're going to do is extend this out. Open search. Because we're going to obviously have some pop-ups and some other things involved in a second. So open search. Close search. Are we having fun, everyone? This is interesting. Are we learning? Right. So we now have a flag, and if I restart with this flag, we should. Yep, now we have an app bar. Let's add some padding in this. Padding. Symmetric. Do you know what? I think I want to bring that padding in. And then this. Okay, not bad so far. Oh yeah. We'll come to, yeah, I think back is actually what we want to close it, right? This is more about clearing search. So let's change this to clear search. Back button, close search. Okay. Search, back. All right, not bad. Not bad so far. Right. When we open, we also want to set the focus into the query controller. So there's no, the way you do that was with the focus node. So query focus. I'm going to give these debug labels. So this is search bar, query box. And oh, you mean like there's a clear on here? Is that what you're saying? No. Yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. Right, so query focus. And dispose of that. And now, over on our text form field, we can also give it a focus node. So now what we can do is when we open up the search box, we can then say schedule. So we could probably get away with this, but let's have a look. Query focus, focus, so request focus. That's the one. All right, so let's see what happens. So we're going to click on the box and boom, keyboard comes up, it requested focus and it got focus and hit back. Because the widget got removed, it lost focus automatically. We didn't have to like get rid of the focus, right? Make this text even bigger. Make sure it's set properly. Hopefully that helps. Right. So where else are we going to go with this? So this was just the silly stuff right now. Let's ensure that height doesn't change because that's kind of bugging me. And then we'll do a slight transition just to show you how you do this kind of stuff. So we want to do a vertical 8, maybe. That's better. Oh, that's kind of annoying me. So the icon button itself has padding on the right, and that's what we're using up here. So we don't actually want horizontal 16, we want left 16. Sorry, I just want to show you actually what I'm talking about here. I can see what I'm doing with the layout, but it's because I've experienced, right? So if you look at your inspector and turn on your debug boundaries, you'll see here the button itself's got padding. And when I open up here, that's the padding that's been used on the outside. So what we actually want to do is not add this padding on the outside all the way around. We want to instead say we want left 16, which accounts for the padding that we want. Let's do that first of all. So now it hits search and it transitions straight away with what's behind, which is quite nice. And we want bottom 8, so we want that extra padding. And that will match what's behind. No, 12, sorry. Or maybe 16. Oh, see. Back, forward, there we go. So that transitions without jumping around. And now what we can do, turn off the borders again. Not now. Why are your borders not turning off? The inspector has crashed. Lucky me. There we go. Yeah, I kind of want that spaced out a bit myself. So we're gonna do this slightly differently. That's better. Search, back. All right, I'm liking that. Now, if you want to transition these pieces, a really simple way of doing this. I'm missing a comma. Doesn't help me. A nice simple way of doing this is to wrap our builder in a animated crossfade. So there's an animated, animate crossfade will do the job. Give it a duration. I'm going to give it a really slow duration for debugging to show you guys, but obviously we probably don't want something anywhere close to being that long. I swear there's a better way of doing this. It's not animate crossfade. Animated switcher. Animated switcher. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah. So transition builder. And we're going to grab this. It fades by default. I think that's actually quite good, but you can override that. Let's see what we get. So guess what? It didn't crossfade. I knew this was going to happen. I just want to show you, right? And this is because when we switch our search flag, the child widget or animate switcher is still a builder, and it doesn't know that the child widget changed. So what we actually need to do is key the child widget. Remember, a widget, if you go look at a widget's, in fact, we'll go into it right now just so you can see, a widget's update method, if I can find it, can update, is based on the runtime type and the key of the widget. That is the class name of the widget, that's the runtime type, and the key that's being used. This is the comparison function that's used to know if it should update the widget in the tree. Yeah. So all we need to do is specify a new key here, and this key, hang on one second. That should have been muted, but anyway. 1 second. Right. I don't. Right. Let's bring it back to it. Try that again. There we go. So, okay. So we want a value key. And the value that we actually want to put in here will be based on what we're displaying. So in this case, that would be a we call it a search box, and then we can choose to say what we want to put in it. Now we could just put that; it'll be true, false, right? Probably not that helpful if you're trying to debug, so or use like testing, right? So you could say open, closed, right? I mean, this is again the key here is you're making a unique ID that's going to be different for this widget based on the state, right? So back to this. If I tap on it now, it should. The one time I wanted to not work, apparently. Hang on. Let's try it again. Restart. Also, let me just do something here. Since I don't need a scaffold, let's get rid of that. And instead, I'm going to wrap my list view in a media query. Remove view padding. This is so. I don't know if you see this on the image here. There's padding above the first item, and this is. You can see that gap there. That's actually caused because it's trying to pad for the status bar at the top of the screen, and that's because we don't remove it, right? So that will do that. Gap gone. Wonderful. And there's no need to have scaffold because we're not using anything scaffold's going to give us. What I want to know is why is that not switching? And I think it's because I was an idiot. No, that should be switching. Well, how about that? Search opens rebuilding. Yep. So we will rebuild this UI. Yep. And animate switch will be given a new builder with a different key. Yep. Inside that, we will produce a different layout. Oh, 3,000 seconds. It's getting there. It's getting there very, very slowly. Thank you very much. That was funny. All right. That's what I get. Right. So there we go. That doesn't look like 3 seconds to me. That is very much instantaneous. What's going wrong? Yeah, what is going wrong here? Oh, you know why? You know why? Okay, so what's happening is the old builder and the new builder, that's the two widgets they're trying to switch between, both flip. We don't have one part of the UI for old and one part for new. So yeah, the builder is a nice idea, but at the moment this is not being passed in as stateful as stateless information, so it's stateful. So as soon as that flag changes, both child widgets are changing. So that's the problem here. So let's remove that key, and instead what we'll do is we'll just do a tertiary if, just to keep this simple. You would actually probably be better to split these out into two separate widgets and inject them that way, but this will do the job. So if search is open, we do that one. Otherwise, we'll do this one, and try and keep it simple. Something like that. Yeah. Let's try that again. Click on the search box. Doing it again, isn't it? Did it actually restart? Let's check. Oh, you know what? If search is open, let's make sure we're doing this right. Search box open. That is wrong, isn't it? Is it wrong? This is, oh no, the search box open, sure. Search box closed. Right. I feel like I'm getting deja vu, but equally, we're not actually solving the problem that that we were asked to asked to fix. The original question was around the overlays. So let's solve that before we go completely off the rails here. And then we can come back and look at transitions on the search bar, okay? Because otherwise we're not going to get anywhere. So, all right, so we want a pop-up that displays the search box underneath our search bar. So first of all, we need to know where the bottom of our search bar is to display the pop-up. We do that with what's called a composited transform target. And where we display it, it's compositive transform follower, the other one that we just saw. To link these things together, you need a I'll put it below actually. You need a layer link. So we'll have what we call these suggestions. Layer link. This links the two different layers together, and then they will move. If, let's say, as we were typing the search box, it went onto multiple lines, it would also move the pop-up then because they're linked together automatically for us. So that's what this is all about. So we give a layer link. That's all we need to do as the target. And then the follower is going to be configured to follow based on that target. All right, so now what we need to do is we need a widget to show our suggestions, right? So we'll do let's do a stateless. We could asynchronously show these suggestions and some other stuff. So anyway, search box suggestions. And in our search box suggestions, we're going to have a piece of material that's going to have a column. We have I guess we can have a list view. You know, there's no problem here. Let's just do a mocked kind of result, yeah, and have I is less than 5, I plus plus, and then we'll return a list tile. A list tile, and title will be suggestion. This one, and on tap, also down in a minute, and then we wrap this in a list body. Yeah, we can actually. This is the list body. And then there's also a list tile. List tile theme. Dense. All right. So that's our search suggestions. So we want to display that in a pop-up and control that pop-up. We also want to control that pop-up on Android, so that if you press back on Android, it will just discard the pop-up, right? We could do that. Perhaps that when you hit back, it also takes you out of the search box. So if you hit back at this point, it actually does what the back arrow would do and like discard it, which I think is probably a nicer UI concept. So we'll come back to that in a minute. For now, let's get the overlay working. So yeah, we need a compositive transform follower, and we want to pass in our layer link. And we want the target anchor will be the bottom left, and the follow anchor will be the top left. Yeah. So that's going to join the top left of this search bar, the search suggestions, to the bottom left of our anchor, and that area covers the anchor covers the search bar. Layer. That's not right. Layer link. Cool. Well, we're getting there. So let's make it so when you tap on it and you do open true, we're also going to display a pop-up and then request a focus, right? Focus pop-up doesn't matter. So we want to do an overlay of context, and we want to insert an overlay entry. I'm going to just piecemeal right now, and then I'll show you like the various different things. Come on. Thank you. So this will work fine. And this is the key. See below and above, you can actually insert an overlay entry above and below. If you want to remove an overlay entry, well, then we need to know what we're removing it from, right? So you don't do like overlay entry remove, right? It's the actual entry itself has the remove. So this means we actually need to store this overlay entry. And then when we want to close our search, we actually want to make sure it gets removed. And if we make that nullable, we can ensure that if this widget is also removed, that it removes the overlay entry if it's open. And then all we need to do up here is say overlay entry. Let's call this suggestion. Suggestions overlay entry. What about the overlay? Oh yeah, there is that new overlay widget. I know I'm old school. It's the way I do things. Let's do this first, and we can have a look at that. I know what you're talking about. There's some new kind of widgets that do this, like this concept for you. Anyway, tap on it. Oh, right, what happened? Follower. Has size. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if actually swap that with the parent. Oh no, this is interesting. Follow layer paint. Does it want the size before following? I mean, we can certainly try that. Oops. Try again. Well, that's not what I was expecting. Should we debug it? Render constraint box. Render box was not laid out. Let me just try something here. Layout. Yeah, I mean, I could. The thing is, I can actually constrain this, right? Like, I could give this, like, let's say 200. I mean, let's just try it, right? 200, height 200. Get rid of our intrinsic, and see what happens, right? I mean, there's something else going on here. Let's remove the follower for a second and just validate that this is actually adding to the overlay. Well, I'll be. Okay, that's interesting. Render list body must have its unlimited space along its. No, it doesn't. I think that's the problem. Let's switch out for column. Okay, that's good. There we go. We have a pop-up. Okay, so that's better than nothing right now. Let's put in intrinsic height, and that should do what I want with the height. Let's see, tap. Wonderful. Now let's make the width where I wanted it, double infinity, which will stretch it out. And we can also do sizebox.expand. Good. Now let's wrap that with what I had, which was it the composited transform follower. Pass over the link. Restart. Yay! Okay, we're finally there. All right, now let's add the color to the material, and colors the gray. Why not? And we'll add a border radius. Only bottom left. What's the radius? Yeah, radius circular. 12. Bottom right. And then we can also give this an elevation 8. Right, let's see what happens. What can go wrong? That looks horrible. Let's go with a very light gray. Well, somewhat better. We're doing gray tones here, so all right. So then the idea is that when you tap on one of these, obviously we want it to maybe put something in the box or go back and use that one. But the main thing here is if I type in the box and I select, okay, we need to add an offset to this. This is to simulate the original problem, which was the overlay box appearing in the wrong index. So let's solve that in a second. Let's just do oops, yeah. Pop that down here. Let's do that for now. And this, where is is it up here? Yeah. So this builder, yeah, we could relegate it outside of here, but like make a static inside of the actual widget, which actually might make more sense. So we'll leave it like this for now. So where was I? Yeah, so instead of string value, what we can now do is close search, right? Clear search, close search, and widget dot on results selected. All right, let's see what happens right now. So I'm using the app, blah, 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 tap on the box, hit on search section 2. And it didn't do anything I was expecting it to do. So let's go take a look. Ah, that's because I didn't use name. Come on, guys, you may help me out here. Right, let's try that again. I would not position it with positions of anchors. So if you're doing that, that's one thing I would not suggest you do. Right, there we are. Suggestion 1, suggestion 4. So that's working. Now what I want to do is on my overlay follower, we can give it a offset. This is just to simulate the original condition that we were looking at. So on the Y, we want to do negative, what, I don't know, 20. Let's see how that looks. This is the original questioner's problem, was that whatever you type in the search box here, hey, look, I can't replicate it because mine doesn't have the problem you're having, apparently. I think I know what's going on. This is the order in which they're being added, so don't worry, we'll sort this out. What we want to do, I think, I'm going to suggest that you press the X. Let's just simulate a few things here, just to clarify the point of what's going wrong and how we can resolve it. So, where on earth is it? Clear search. Instead of doing clear search, let's have it select. No, let's have it close the suggestions overlay. Yeah, that's what I want. I think overlay entry. Let's remove that. And I think we won't have suggestions pop up immediately. Let's have them delay popping up on change. Oh, there's a few things we can do here. I'm just trying to think about a way of like simulating the problem that's occurring. Yeah, I think we'll do that. So we'll set up on query controller. We'll say add listener on query changed. And on query changed, we'll say if the suggestions overlay, is null, then we'll make one and add it, right? And we'll do this in a time delay just to simulate maybe going to the server. So this is, let's do mock timer. Oh, that's not the right one. So what we're going to do is like a debounce timer. So all we're doing is each time the text is changed, we're going to cancel the existing timer. Which, did I make it nullable? I did. Good. Okay. And then we're going to create a new timer, and we'll make this duration milliseconds, 1500, and then let's do that. And then we want to make sure we cancel that timer if we get disposed, because we don't want to be running this function here after our widget's gone. All right, so with that change, if I tap on the search box, nothing comes up. And 1.5 seconds later, that comes up because we don't check the value. Let's do that again. Suggestions, query text controller. We can say if query text controller, query text dot trim is empty, return, I don't know, something like that. And then we actually want to cache query text. Just cache it here, and then you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. Query text. So, yeah. And then we could do something really, really stupid with our suggestions panel right now and just say, want to do this? I know, input, mock input. Again, this is really example sort of stuff, just to play around with it. Okay, so down here, this can be mock. All right, let's try this again. Tap on the search box. Nothing comes up. Good, perfect. I start typing. Fred is cool. And then Fred is cool. Suggestions come up. And then tap on one of those, and then it returns Fred is cool. Now let's go back in there. Fred is cool is still there. Interesting. We don't do it on focus change. We only do it on text change. The text didn't change. So we should probably key that to focus change as well. So let's do that. Query focus, add listener, on query changed. And then we'll also want to validate in here, we'll cancel the timer. If the text, if it does not have focus, right, then we want to return. All right, so let's try that again. Tap on the search box. Fred is cool. Boom. Tap on an item, go back in there. Interesting. Testing. What do we do wrong? We never set the timer to null after actions. Not that that should make a difference, but good idea. All right, let's try that again. Test. Something else. Right, because the pop-up already exists and we're not canceling the previous overlay to display the new ones. We could do that. Go in there, type something. Something's going wrong here with the state. All right. And the timer, we have a timer dispose on the dispose method. It doesn't need a mounted state check, buddy. It's a nice idea. It doesn't need one because we're guaranteeing that the timer can't run if the state no longer exists. So we don't need a check, right? If we were to get an error doing that, then we would know that we're doing something wrong right at that point. But yeah. Right, let's just do this. Test. Let's solve the original problem and we'll come back and time this up. So if I now highlight this. Oh, yeah. Select all. Well, that's interesting. It goes again, and of course, then It's not set to null, so it doesn't recreate. That's the issue. All right, let's try this again. Right, all right. So try this again. Right, test, whatever. There it is there. If I delete and type something else, there we go. And we can say Fred is cool. And if I highlight this, there we go. So now we're replicating the issue which Zlati was occurring, right? Which is where his selection handles are appearing behind his pop-up, his overlay. So the question is, how can we resolve this? So let's go work this one out. So when we make our pop-up, we can say it's below another entry. We can also say when the handles appear, they should be above another entry. Let's adjust that down a little bit. It's a bit too high to see clearly. There we go. So these handles, they're hard to use because they're below this pop-up. We want to ensure that they're always above the pop-up, right? If I remember rightly, there's a Z index on how this works, and it's been a while, so we're going to go hunt it down. But this is a great little example of how you might do this kind of UI. Hopefully people are finding this interesting, it's helpful. Right, where's that text editing form field thing? I also want to know why this isn't animating, but yeah, at this point, I'm just like, who the hell cares, right? But it should be. All right, come back to that in a minute. Right. That's interesting. You know why? Because no, I don't know why that is. I need a good set to null, but oh, I'm using microseconds now instead of milliseconds. That's twice now. It's twice now. Quick typing came into it. All right, let's try. Hey, it's working. It's working. All right. Let's do K theme change, which is like I think it's like 300 milliseconds or something. Yeah, it's just enough to take the edge off the transition to make it a bit nicer. Okay, what was I doing? Typing something in, and we get our recommendations. And then if I highlight this, there's our cursors. Right, back to this. Sorry, it's Latin. Right, where were we? Oh Christ, where was I? Text field, that was it. So down here, text form field. We have, they've changed a bunch of this. So let me just, oh yeah, and then you can tap outside, which I think is what he mentioned earlier. Where is it? So you can use tap region to detect outside. Normally, that's not the way it works. But I appreciate that's a new one. So yeah, we could look at that on type outside. The problem here is you don't clearing it. You may not want or having some extra buttons. You may not want to tap outside, right, or have the same feedback. I need to look at why that's occurring, but we'll come back to that. This somehow the state is definitely getting screwed up. We'll figure that in a second. I'm just going to restart it. Hang on. There we go. Right. So where was those text selection controls? Build handle. Get handle anchor. And build toolbar. Get handle size. Can cut, can copy. Entity selection controls. That's handy, I guess. Let's have a look at an implementation of this where build handle, what's what it calls it. So there's a compositive transform follower. Show when unlinked, false. Fade transition. Get handle size, handle offset, handle rectangle. Selection handle overlay. So selection handle overlay. Okay, so this seems to be this seems to be handling the actual display of those handles and whether they're interactive and how they follow the text and handle gestures and all that kind of fun stuff. Cool. So how is this positioned? Okay, there's a couple of places it's been used. Okay, not here. Build start handle. Build end handle. How nice. Okay, and build start handle. Oh, look, overlay entry handles. Insert all. Interesting. So they use a root. They use the root overlay. So if we put an overlay within that to display our suggestions, then these will always be positioned on top because of the root ones. Sounds like a good plan. Let's go back to our. It's a nice, simple way of fixing it. Let's go back and see how we do with that. So what we want to do is wrap our layer here with an overlay. An initial entry, overlay, overlay, entry. Button above. What? What's going on? Weird. What? There we go. All right, let's grab our content. And let's give this. I mean, we could just say what the overlay entry is used for. Right, you should really do that in some situations there. You could also make this to widget, call it like search box host, stuff like that, right? Search box suggestions. Drop down to within the bounds of the page, right? All right, let's. I have an error. We're missing a semicolon. Try again. Okay, let's see what happens, shall we? Click on the search button, type something. Red is cool. And then if I select this, hey, look, that's all it took to fix your problem, Slutty. Sorry, that took a long time to get to the thing. Yeah, so adding an overlay on top of, on top of part of your UI will mean that your overlay entry will use that. So in this case, the suggestions overlay is using that, which is underneath the root overlay, and the root overlay is always what's being used for the handles. So that's about it. If you wanted to, a neat way of doing this overlay yourself could be maybe adding it in the Material app. I'm trying to remember where the root overlay is. I think the root overlay is in the navigator, actually. So perhaps not. Do you know what? I'm not sure. It's been a while. Hang on. Should we ever go have a look? Let's go have a look. Yeah, the reproductions. The thing is, there's always that kind of stuff, right? Actually, we didn't also handle back, like handling the back on Android. We could. Are people more interested in like finishing this off as an example? We could do a bit more. That I could show you how this local history route works and how you handle back inside without pushing routes and stuff like that. Some other things. Yeah, overlay route. So yeah, there you go. So overlay route is the base of each route, and this displays the widgets in the navigator's overlay. So there's one. So each route controls its overlay entries. You have multiple entries apparently, and those overlay entries are being pushed into the navigator's overlay widget, right? So what happens is Material App is going to make a navigator widget, and it hands that as the child parameter to the builder function. So we could actually, we could do this entire thing without Material App, by the way, just to explain that. Like Material App is not this whole singing or dancing thing you need to use, right? It's just good practical sense, because as soon as you want to use any material widget, you're going to need Material App, or at least the things that it gives you. So a navigator, just to explain this, if you look inside a navigator, back, and you look at its build method, which we're going to scroll down to, there's lots and lots of text there because navigation is quite a let's maybe search for build. Might be actually, there is a structure. There it is. So this is the navigator states build function, and in here, apart from all this, they are listener, absorber, focus, overlay. So the very first overlay you're going to get in your widget tree is going to be this overlay, right? And this will be the one that's made by the navigator, that's made for you by the Material App widget. Okay. Cool. All right, back to where we were. Should we finish it, round off this, and figure out what the actual bugs were? So for some reason, I'm going to type something, and if we change it, it works, which is interesting. If we clear it and start typing, it doesn't come back. So that's one thing. And then we'll do the local history entry. Let's do that root overlay. So that's the root entry. Yeah, that's the root overlay. Yeah. Sorry, misread you. All right, so why is this not coming up? So we clear search. We don't require it to be. We don't require it to be null. It's just a good thing to do if you're going to remove it, right? But where's the X button? It just clears the search. Focus still remains in there. On query changes will definitely be being called. It will cancel any previous timer. And this will be the new text. It still has focus. All right. I guess let's grab that query text and just let's do a print here and see what we get in our logs, right? Let's do that. Hit search box, start typing. Okay, we got 2 blank calls. Test. So we got T, TE, TES, TEST, right? Let's clear it. It blanks out. And then I start typing again. Okay. Okay, it's working now. So are we saying the only change I made was making it null? You know what might be happening? I wonder if we didn't set it to null, so it's trying to remove an already removed layer, and it's throwing. I wonder if there's something going on like that, like it's already been disposed. So we're getting a. I'm not running it in debug. I'm not running it in debug mode. So it's probably throwing. That would make sense. Since we recreate, so and it's not really a hack. And it's a nice way to say it's a hack, but it's not a hack. The overlay. Remember, the overlay handles are using the root one, the one that's made by the navigator, right? Whereas the one that we're using for that suggestions overlay is using the one that we supplied, right? So we're not altering the platform behavior. So I think there's I think what we could do here is, rather than get rid of the mock stuff and have a little something that is more like, here's something that calls an API, and not actually call an API, but do that. So we have something like, I don't know, suggestions provider, manager, provider, whatever. Provider's overused, but we're going to call it that. Added the print fixed it. When in doubt, add a print that starts working, right? Yeah. Class suggestion provider, and we'll have this extended change note. Do you want to change notifier? Sure. Let's have a. In fact, let's have it a value notifier for a list of string. In fact, should we go all out on generics and do it properly? Sure, why not? We have a value of t. In fact, we could do go in one step further. Why not? Fucking dummy. Suggestion, search suggestion is going to be something that has a display value. I don't know. There you go. And we want any T that extends such suggestion provider. Sorry, you asked for it. This is what you get. And we'll have the default value be nothing when first created. Come. And then we can do a future void find suggestions. Nothing half-baked is left here. Find suggestions, and this will be based on the query. And what we'll do is, at the moment, we'll just do an await future.delayed. This is the mock piece, right? So this is, here we can say mock a call to a server to get some response data or something, right? Now the debouncing on search, let's go back down to our, sorry, there's going to be a lot of up and down at the moment. I do apologize. We'll try and keep it to a minimum. So let's get rid of these. Okay, first of all, let's get search suggestion. And what we're going to do now is use the right type instead of this. So we now use search suggestion. And it's actually anything that extends a search suggestion. So we keep the type safety. And mock input goes away. Search suggestions now as a panel that we don't have to recreate anymore. That's key. I was only recreating it for testing purposes, right? We don't really need to recreate the pop-up panel each time we get new results. So instead, what we want to do is have this widget itself find the provider and then update and listen to those results. So a really simple way of doing this is we're going to wrap our column in a builder, and there's going to be a value listenable builder. And the value listenable is going to be context find ancestor widget of exact type, ancestor state of exact type, and we'll put this in the app. To make an app widget, I think I meant app widget, app state. We have an app state, something like that. Really bad app search bar state. That's not what I want. Let's go up to the top layout. Where did I put it? Oh, we have home. Sorry, home. Let's look for home state. What we could do. Let's not go there right now. We'll do this like this for now, and then there's some other slightly better ways of doing this, right? But so, in fact, do you know what? I'm going to take this out here. I'm going to do it slightly differently, right? So we're going to have a static. What do we call it? It was a search suggestions provider. Suggestions provider. Suggestions provider of build context, right? Build context. And then this is going to, what's nice about this is you keep your, we can separate this onto multiple files and keep home state internal. So we can say context find ancestor state type, home state, and then we can look inside that and get our suggestions provider. And then what we're going to do is down here, when our home state starts up, home is not really correct at this point. I think we're going to change this actually. I'll just make a new app sort of widget, sort of top level widget, and that's going to host our material app. That's better. And then our suggestions provider goes in here. Actually, sorry, not in here. To lie. Let's try to put an app. That's what I was trying to do. Put it up here on app. Put this inside our app state. And where is it? App state. Okay, so when our app starts up, we're going to initialize a suggestions provider. And in fact, that can be private. It doesn't need to be public. And then when our app shuts down, we're going to dispose of that suggestions provider. Right? No packages required. Okay, and let's do that. Cool. Now we have a suggestions provider. We can use suggestions provider app.suggestions provider of to get access to it anywhere in our app. We'll do it down here, app.suggestion provider of context, boom. And then our builder wants the value. So this is going to be was it list of now we're going to need to match this up. So T is a search suggestion, so we actually need to pass our T across. This is me making it type safe, and just you have to deal with it. Do you know what? I'm not going to add this complexity here. No, you know what? I feel like it's just going to add way more than what's needed. we're going to have a search suggestion and implementation of that. Yeah, that's just keep it. Yeah, let's keep it simple. Actually, no, it could be something that. And that should work. That should work for what we need. That should work for what we need without getting too crazy. So list of search suggestions. Right. So database interface. Okay. So when we display our list, we're going to have a list of search suggestions, and we're going to use the display value, display label, something like that. I can't remember what I called it now. Yeah, suggestions. Let's do final suggestion in suggestions. Display value. Let's go that display label. And then what we're going to return back is a suggestion. And we just know it's a search suggestion. We lose a bit of type safety here, but I think it's fine. So we're just getting rid of it from this layer. It means we'd have to have full sort cast, but I can't be messing around with it. The stream's getting a bit late as it is. So pick and choose your battles. Right. So on suggestion pressed, we have our search suggestion. And when we return a search suggestion, it's going to be a search suggestion selected. And where's that function? So let's call this selected. And this can be nullable now. And search suggestion. And what we're going to say is if does not equal null, then we'll use it. Otherwise, I'm just going to do a I don't know, empty, something like that. It will do for now. And then this display label. All right. Right, where are we at? So we've got selected. We got all that lovely stuff. We have a little like provide at the top. We haven't implemented the actual search piece now, so that's where we want to go. So when the query changes, there's this has it got focus, right? The clearing the previous timer and this debounce is something that is completely independent of the UI, right? So we want to show when we know that we've got a query to be working on, we want to show the UI. So we no longer need to do the debounce, right? That'll be part of the search query itself. So, okay, so we do all this piece, and then what we're going to do is, if we don't have an overlay entry, we're going to show an overlay entry, right? That's one piece. If this is the first time we're showing it, I guess we might have some previous entries that we're showing. So we probably want to do search provider. Go on. We probably want to do something like clear suggestions, right? There's only if it's null, right? So the first time we're opening it up, right? Okay, and I guess we want to clear the suggestions as well on clear the search. I know there can be many reasons you might want to do that, right? Actually, let's come back to that in a second. One step at a time. Right. So on query changed. If we don't have an overlay entry already, we're going to clear the suggestions and show an overlay entry showing whatever suggestions. And then we want to call our search suggestions provider and then start the query. Find suggestions based on the query text given. And this whole timer piece is going to go away. Yep. Get rid of that. Right. Where did I get to? Oh yeah. So let's go about debouncing. Okay. So right back to where we were at the very beginning of doing this. So now we got our suggestions provider. We do our find. What we can do now is put our debounce timer in here. And each time we get asked to find new suggestions, we're going to cancel that timer and start a new one, just like we were before. And then the actual network request, we'll put that in a separate function. Just maybe perform query returns a list of T. That's not going to work, is it? Let's just make search suggestion a class. I'm not gonna. I can't be bothered with making it more complicated than it needs to be right now. No, final. Yeah, that'll do. And let's go back to that. Pop that in here. We could put a future on that and have the UI update with. We can then start adding state and some other stuff. That's like adding a spinner and some other things, but let's not go there just yet. All right, so return list.generate 10 items, and each item is going to be a search suggestion, and the display label is going to be our query followed by the index. So we're still doing the same thing we were just talking about before, but we're just moving up a level, if that makes sense. And let's get rid of that. Do that. Okay. And debounce timer. If it if it expires, then we're going to be 1 second. Okay, so perform query, and we're going to pass in that query text. So if a new query comes in and we cancel the old one, we want to be using the text that we started with. Good. Await. Right. Okay. So we cancel our previous timer. We debounce for a period of time, and we maybe perform a request and get our results back, and we can clear those results at any point. Those results are displayed on the screen inside the drop down. All right, let's run it. see what happens. How much do you think we've broken this? Okay, so empty. That's a good sign. That's what we made it do. Hit the search box. Type in testing. Did that just work? That's nice. All right. All right. Fred. So you see that we got results there because we did. Okay, so let me explain what's going on. There's a neat little string here, right? So if I say F and retype, we might get two results there, FR and then the full one. We never wanted to deliver the results for FR because we continued typing, right? So the debounce made sure that we didn't do too many requests to the server, but what it hasn't done is solve the problem of delivery. And you do that with a token, right? So essentially what you're doing is we have a token value, so say result token. We'll start off with 0. And then when we start our request, we capture the token, and then we only update the value of the result if that token's the same. So what we're saying is token ++ and store that result in a variable, local token, right? We get our results asynchronously, right? And then if local token matches, if the current result token still matches local token, then we update our resulting value. So the ++ means before, for those that don't know, means it's going to add one to this, and then the result of that value +1 is being returned to local token. If we do the ++ on the right-hand side, this adds 1 after it returns the result, the value of result token to local token in this case, right? So we want this. So the idea here is that we increase the value. So the first time this function runs, it'll be the value 1. Then it performs the network request. And if it's still 1 after it finishes, then it knows that another request hasn't come in, right? If another request comes in, then what you're actually doing is this will be a value of 2 then. And then if the first one finishes, it will say if 2 is equal to 1, it's not. So it never updates the results. It's that simple. Right. So let's try it out. So now if I say Fred is cool, and I delete and then start typing, we never get the intermediate happen. I delayed long enough, so yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So we actually want clear to increase the token as well, right? This stops it delivering results and overriding the blank ones, which is what's happening right now. Let's do it again. Back to nothing. Well, there's a question. I think I was looking at doing that, and I think I commented out, didn't I? So we got that commented out. What we also didn't do is if our query input, yes, when our query changes, if it's empty, we actually need to clear the suggestions, right? Yeah. So let's try that again. Type in the box, clear it out, and it empties. Cool. Okay, so what was the final thing was back, right? So we could do back on Android and have it discard the search. And I think We could have it. Hang on, let's just have a look here. If you type in the box, hit clear. Yeah, so that actually removes the overlay. It doesn't need to. Close search certainly does, but clear not so much. And clearing that also clears that. So that should do what I wanted to do. Let's just try it again. So type in the box, clear, type in the box. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that was it. So we want a local. So if we open up our search box with search open, what we actually want to do is add a local history entry. So we make a local history entry. Let's call it search box open. Search history entry. I don't know, let's do that. And when we open the search, we're going to create a local history entry. And if we close the search, we're gonna clear that local history entry. Yeah, there's some order of operations here that we need to look at, but so what's going to happen is if you hit back on Android after adding this local history entry, which we don't just do that, we do modal route. That's the one. We do modal route of context. Add local history entry. There we go. I think we can just, yeah, we only want it open when our search box is open, and then when we close our search box, we want it removed. Remove local history entry. Oops. If it's not null, it shouldn't be. Make it null though. The question here is more about, do we want to call the remove function? I don't think removing it. An entry is on remove query, if any, will be called synchronously. Okay, so this is where it gets complicated. So this stuff, which we want to do on close, actually moves into here. Yeah. So let's restart and see what happens. So we open up the search. We can type in the box. If we hit back, that dismissed the keyboard, sorry. Hit back again. There you go. Comes out. And you can hit back here. If we clear, even if we clear it, if you go into it and you hit back, sorry, again, come out. So what we could also do is if, it was on tap outside, wasn't it, as well? We can do that as well. So where's our text field? On tap outside, and have that. Here's the thing. Do you want it just to dismiss the, close the search, or just dismiss the suggestions? Because there's a difference, right? I feel like you tap outside, maybe suggestions just disappear, right? I don't know. Let's just do close search. See think we're missing a parameter, but I don't care, right? Yeah. All right, let's try that. So, what was saying? Yeah, tap inside, type inside, tap on the outside. Yeah, and it closes it. I mean, you can do that. So that's interesting. The tap outside, it considers this pop-up not part of the current region. That overlay region's in a completely separate overlay. I'm not sure that's going to work, but we can try. Let's make it part of the tap region, shall we? Try and remember you do that. How you do that now? Where's the material? We wrap this in a text field tap region. All right, let's try that again. Yeah, that worked. Subtly very different, right? So the results come up. When I tap on it, it's not dismissing it immediately. It's returning the code and then it's dismissing automatically because I told it to do so inside the code base, right? I don't particularly like that tap outside. I think I guess you could. I don't think it's needed. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go so far as to comment it out. I don't like it. I mean, you could parameterize it, right? If I can find it. There it is. Let's just comment it out. All right. So I think we are done. I will post this code on Gist in just a moment, and then you can all have at it. Oh, Kevin, are you suggesting you can come on and have a quick word? You're more than welcome. If you want, hang on. We're not all done yet. One second. Kevin put his foot in it. If he wants to. You don't have the link. Well, I can fix that, Kevin. I can fix that. There you go. Magic. It's up to you, mate. There's no pressure. So we were just experimenting, solving a problem around that was posted online, which is how do we get our text handle to appear above a suggestions pop-up type thing. So I decided to get all out and show how you use overlays and followers and all that fun stuff to make an overlay. And then when you select that overlay, the results come in and how you do that kind of thing with everything. Right. Who else? What else is going on here? Let's have a quick look. I'm going to catch up the conversation here and then tap region detect outside. That doesn't matter. Cool. Can you please pick up the topic on how follow widget works? Maybe next session. Could do if people are interested in that. Oh, here he is.
It's terrifying how easy it is to go from Simon looks lonely to oh my gosh, I'm streaming on the internet. It shouldn't be this easy.
Sorry, I didn't mean that. Like, there's no pressure. I didn't have to go on. That was just like having fun. I've been left all on my own. All the rest of them had to go. And I wanted to get this code finished off, but it's kind of fun. So just kind of like, showing how you do this kind of overlay pop-up, suggestions kind of thing, which I think a lot of people don't know how the overlay system works. So explain some.
I certainly have no idea.
See, you can learn along with everyone else.
I should be watching.
Let me have a quick look at these topics that come through here. Yes, so yeah, that's something that's quite interesting, which is I added in where was it? Let me skim down to it. Have you actually used the composited transform follower and compositive transformed target?
I mean, you understand, you are an expert. I mean, I work on the team, but I'm on
yes, I build stuff. I don't use it.
I enable folks like you. At the lowest level, right? So framework stuff, you know 100 times more than I do.
I was talking to a couple of things came up in conversation earlier around like Dart tree shaking and all that kind of fun stuff, and that's where you can step in, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well,
so
I don't know much about animation. I'm living in how we're optimizing our WASM compiler and
you've been living the WASM world for quite some time now, right?
Yeah, you should. Folks watching at least should be watching. We just launched the crossword app.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Nice.
check Twitter, X, whatever. On our blog.
Which account was that on? The Dart one or the
Google developers? I retweeted. I don't know if the Flutter account is retweeted.
Oh, you retweeted it. I missed that.
This is because you're streaming live and answering questions for the fans.
Yeah. If people are interested, we can do that. So this is the IO crossword one, yeah. This one. Ooh. So did you end up doing this? Was this done in Flutter then?
Yep.
This is the first thing I'm doing. Mute.
It's a great feature.
So Dash, sure. Join Team Dash. Initials on the leaderboard. S. Sure. Let's go with that.
There are worse 3 letters to use. Yes.
Yeah. Find a word.
Play now.
Okay. And then solve the word, endpoints, get streak. Is this going to be open sourced at the end of?
It already is.
Oh, it already is. Even better.
Yeah. The source code's all available. It uses Firebase. It uses Gemini. So look, I see a 4-letter word up there, right? You see cloud monitoring, the 4-letter word.
Hang on, I'm just trying to find the source code link so I can post it. Google I/O Shed. That one. No,
I think it's done by our friends at VGV.
Ah, okay. It's probably on their.
I could probably also be helpful here.
I mean, if you have it to hand, then that's even better. Saves me from trying to dig it out.
Hey, here you go.
Pop it in the private chat and I'll bring it up for everyone.
There you go. And the server code is also available. The server, they ended up using JS, I believe, just because they wanted to use functions.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll post that link in the chat for everyone, and I'll post the link to the crossword. Sorry, that was me. Yeah, game crossword.
Yeah, so this is using Gemini, this is using Firebase, this is using Flutter Web and WASM.
So, a minute.
So look over the right. There's a vertical word. There's a vertical word. Oh,
okay. Yeah, sorry. So, since we're using technology, okay. Go away. So, I see. Sorry, I missed that. So, okay. So you basically got these.
You can use pinch to zoom as well if you want to zoom out a little.
I would if I had a pinch, but I have a mouse.
Oh, yeah.
Can I scroll and zoom? I can. So someone at VGV should get an extra pat on the back for that one.
Oh yeah, right. They do. Our VGV friends do a great job with accessibility.
I did. So do you know the New York Times? A few years back, there was a New York Times app that was up on the big screen at Google I/O. I did the animations for that when I was doing some work with VGV at the time. So it was quite funny because I was at Google I/O 2019, and I turned around and my code the animations that I wrote were up on the massive screen. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's nice. App Engine. Is this like a group thing? I don't know.
Yes.
So other people around are on Team Dash are doing this right now. So our viewers are probably filling this in right now. Yeah. All right. Cool.
This is getting ready for the Google Connect, the IO Connect event in Germany, in Berlin's happening today. I think it's Berlin.
I know. Yeah. I'm missing it. I was going to go. I missed Google I/O, then I've missed the Google I/O Connect because of obligations. So
it's so close for you.
I know. I've got next week. I'm going to be in Berlin again. So, we'll get there.
Wonderful.
Anyway, Cool.
I'll let you finish up here. I don't have any other.
No,
awesome
no,
stuff to
that's
share.
cool. Let's see what else. What was in the chat here? What have I missed?
Flutter and WASM, like.
You seeing questions?
Mustafa, he's like, yes, of course. I don't know if he uses Rive. Is the other question. Yeah.
So switch to this. That's better. Yeah, so I'm going to post this in the gist for everyone, and then you've all got the code. Did I miss anything else in here? Question. Sometimes struggling with measurements, for example. If 80 pixels wide, how can I ensure that it's compatible with all screen sizes? Don't size it to 80 pixels. That's the answer. Use intrinsic sizes. Use like the idea of like growing as large as the parent or small as you need. Yeah, as Chris said. Yeah, use flexible design. Basically, he's trying to avoid fixed sizes as at all possible, right? The offset that was added on this was only added like paddings as well. Like all dips are actually like they handle when you measure. You're not measuring pixels in Flutter. You're measuring dips, which are display density independent. But that's not the same as display versus display size, right? So, right. What else we got? Just the same. Good to see you, Kevin Moore. Must have, yeah.
Likewise.
Oh yeah, and I think this remark about the animation bug was I wrote down microseconds instead of milliseconds, and I was like, why is the animation just instantly happening like that?
Might be giving me too much credit there. Although we actually just added a feature using later browser things. It's so funny the things that hit my head. So like date times will now have microsecond accuracy in the next stable release. Date times on the web will have microsecond accuracy. These are the things people care about a lot. These are the bugs we're fixing. It's making sure that date times have microsecond accuracy.
I mean,
so you really know how many microseconds it has been since Epoch.
I know, but like I can understand. It's actually kind of interesting because it's great for like doing things like benchmarking, right? When you need that kind of accuracy.
But don't use date time for benchmarks.
No, of course. But what I'm trying to say is if you need microseconds, like that's the only time in which I think that an app would ever need to actually. Right. I know there's times, but it's also like you can't like high resolution timers, the HPET that's built into like the motherboard and the way it works. It's just you can't guarantee the scheduler. You can't guarantee you're remotely going to get anything at the microsecond accuracy. So the only way you're actually going to
just the jitter and the CPU caches, everything else. Yeah,
exactly. So the only thing you're going to get from microseconds is if you do something 500, 1,000 times and get some sort of median or average from that, and actually give you some sort of measurement of. That's what I'm thinking benchmarking, right? But
yeah. In those cases, you should never use a date time. Yeah, but for consistency, it's good. We're trying to be consistent.
If anyone's got any, yeah. Chris says, I want nanosecond date objects or riot.
There's going to be a riot?
Go on. Yeah, or there's going to be a riot, basically. All right, let me post this code. If anyone's got any remarks whilst Kevin's here, feel free to, or questions or something like that. We're here. We're not
anything special. I just saw you lonely, and I was like, "I'll say hi." And of course, then I get sucked in.
Thank you.
Which is fine. I love to. We haven't talked in a while, Simon.
It is. It's been a while. It's been a hot moment, hasn't it? Found myself very busy. I have to find myself even more busier between now and next week because I haven't written a slide yet for my talk. So I was talking to Andrew Brogdon, who's doing he's going to do the keynote, and he's like, "Can you go over my keynote?" I'm like, he's like, "I have to write the slides first." I'm like, "Yes, so do I."
I got all my talks done for the year, which is great.
Yeah, I mean,
at least as far as I know.
I mean, obviously, if it's for official Google, then you're going to need to get sign off before, and there's a whole process, right? So.
Marketing and everything else for a Google event.
So it's not as simple as you can't leave it to the last minute. Basically, they're not going to let you.
No. There's actually Yeah, so if it's for a Google event, and it's funny, I had very little check-ins on my talk for WASM.io, which is funny. That's a good question about the new load system.
Okay, let's pop out.
Yeah, I forget where it is. It's bootstrapping. Yeah, so we did. Jackson did a whole new bootstrapping system, which is great. Actually, if you look at the source code for our crossword app, it's used in the crossword app, and the approximate reason for doing it was to enable WASM, because now it's smart enough to do the feature detection to see are we in a browser that currently supports WASM GC or not, and turns it on or not.
And then it'll back off to JavaScript if not.
Exactly. But the nice thing about it was it also improves the load time.
Say again?
It improves the load time.
Oh, improves the load time.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second. Someone's asking about Angular. No. Someone's asking about Flutter samples. Someone was just asking about Flutter components inside Angular. Where is our?
I mean, there's Angular Dart, right? But that's now a community project. Officially.
Right, but there's here to your chat there.
Yeah. For free.
We have a sample of this now.
Oh, you do?
Oh,
okay.
I guess I'm not signed in correct.
It's oh, we lost him.
It's been a while since I've done that.
That's all right.
We have
Yeah.
element embedding, and there's the sample.
I'll post that link into the chat for anyone that needs it. There you go. Oh, so there's actually a full-on.
This is an Angular application that's hosting a Flutter web app.
Yeah.
And I should find it. It's hosted somewhere. I should find it. But the idea is when the Flutter app boots up, you give it an element like this is your home,
mm-hmm.
and then it does some very straightforward wiring to expose itself as just a JavaScript object that you can then interact with. So we can bind to this object synthesized from Dart. We use a new JS interop, so you can bind to the object from Angular. And so you can hit plus minus. I demoed this 2 years ago. This is 2 years ago at I/O. But you can do plus and minus in the Angular app and bind a text field to it, and it all works.
So this actually binds. So this is actually going to bind some logic as well.
Yeah. So you see here where it's, I don't know. Yeah, like it binds because that's the beauty of the web, right? Like. It is a Dart object, but as long as the Dart object exposes properties that are well named and functions and everything, callbacks and everything else, if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck,
yeah.
So
sure.
I should find where this is. It's my other account. Just a second.
So I'm just going to have a little nose through. Oh, something I've actually got some feedback for you. What was it?
File an issue.
I did tell that this was who was it? Was it last stream or the stream before? Where someone wanted to use it was an element. Oh, that was it. It was full screen. Full screen. The request full screen from the browser is not in web package, which I thought was really weird. It's in .html.
Well, first, the link I just sent you is the example. Actually, bring that up on your browser. And while you do that, let me search for Dart-lang.
Okay, so this is. Oh, I remember this. Yes. Oh, this was the demonstration of doing.
It's 2 years ago.
Flutter web embedding. Yeah. So this was. Been able to like do whatever you want to do. Yeah. So you can take what's inside.
Now hit like spin and mirror.
Yeah. I was just doing that. So.
And then you can still hit the button and it types and it's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Is this like an iframe element, or are you actually embedding it?
No, it's an actual HTML element.
Nice. Okay, so
you can do
actually, like,
CSS
using the
and all the transforms and everything else on it.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, you got your Flutter view there. Yeah.
So it's and
Nice.
you can do synchronous JavaScript interop with it. You don't have to use the async stuff with an iframe. Yeah, this is new as of a year ago.
Nice. Nice.
There's actually another sample in the same repository showing a React as well.
I'm going to repost these links just so everyone's got them. I don't know if I reposted them, but I will now. Let's get the home.
And there's an ask about full screen. I just sent you another link in that in the private chat because I'm not signed into YouTube and I don't want to refresh myself again. There are things I can talk about. There are answers I have. I'm so glad.
Oh, look, there is. Okay, yeah.
So basically, we were trying to be conservative because it's there's an amazing service. It basically goes through every spec, and some specs are in draft, and some are
talking about
the IDL stuff. And
yeah,
there's
the
a tool
IDLs,
that goes through and goes through every spec and make sure they're all self-consistent. Like no one defines the same name twice, and no functions override, and then just dumps them. And the problem is you end up with all these specs that are like started 6 years ago and never implemented anywhere. So we had a lot of stuff in Dart HTML and Friends that was like only ever implemented in Chrome or an experiment in Chrome that never got anywhere. And so the first release of Package Web, we were very conservative about the APIs we exposed because it's much easier to add an API than remove it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So great. So for the person, I don't remember the questioner's name. If he's watching again, it is coming in. It's been thumbs up the issue, I guess.
And actually, we're hoping to release V1 of Package Web this week.
Or maybe V1. Wow, nice.
Because we think it's going to be supported, finger quotes forever. Like it's our stable offering. We're telling people to use it. They will almost certainly be breaking changes because the web evolves. But it'll be V1, and then we added a bunch of stuff in the last release. So there's a lot of good stuff I think people will like.
Right, let's see what else we got here. What's this? How can we make scrolling smooth in Flutter Web? Scrolling with mouse. So what you're missing is my gist. I have a gist for this. In general, it's not about this is more about desktop. So desktop on purpose. You desktop reveal when you scroll with a mouse wheel, scroll 3 lines, 2 lines. You can in your mouse configurations you can choose how many lines you want it to scroll. Versus smooth scrolling, which is more of a visual thing. So you can actually decide how you want to handle that. I put together this little snippet, correct and smooth scroll for Flutter Web. And basically you use a smooth scroll controller instead of a normal scroll controller. And you can choose what velocity multiplier and you want to use. But basically it just, when you go get the scroll event, it uses the velocity to maneuver the list and goes ballistic, which is basically handling a simulation of scroll rather than actually dealing with fixed units of pixel scrolling, which is what would normally happen. So hopefully I'll put that in the chat for anyone that's interested in the answer.
Sure.
Right, let's start wrapping up, I think. Thank you for dropping. Thanks for dropping my camera. I mean, you didn't need to drop on, but thank you.
Oh, and then I was like, "But you're alone." I was like, "Sure, it's good. It's just my chance to chat with you." I swear much less, obviously. It's a way to embed multiple Flutter apps instances in a single web page. When is it? June 26th?
Soon, TM. Sometime.
That would be a great feature to have like before the end of the summer, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking.
So even though you got a Flutter view, this like the same as the Flutter engine. You start one instance of the Flutter engine, but you could still have multiple Flutter views with different entry points, right? Because I mean that's how it works generally. Like does the embedded work similarly on the web? Because that's how it works on the other stuff.
Let me speak in abstract terms. I mean, I love you all. Like it's not that big a deal, but like it's interesting. You can imagine having one instance of the engine. The easiest thing is one instance of the engine and one root view. That's the easiest thing. N equals 1. It turns out N equals star is hard or harder because you can imagine there's a world of assumptions around not only having more than one view, but having 0 views. Like you might want to be able to bootstrap the engine and get it hot before you add views to things. So that's an interesting thing just to ponder. And again, completely academically, Simon. I'm just speaking academically. But another an interesting academic idea is you can imagine that the kind of support you would need to support multiple windows on desktop, for instance, would rhyme amazingly well with the idea of supporting multiple independent embeddings on the web.
Right.
You can imagine, like, again, academically speaking, that would work really well. But I have nothing to announce today.
Where's Michael Goodabada when you need him?
Yeah.
He's the developer was working on desktop. Anyway, multi-window desktop.
But much love to you and everyone watching. You can find me on X and Twitter and everything else. And go play the crossword.
Yeah. I posted links to all that in the chat, and I'll post a link in the chat to your Twitter, your very famous Kevmoo Twitter, where people can find you and follow you. There you go. That's in the chat. Those that don't know. Didn't have it. I think we're going to stop questions here. I'm sure Kevin's got a lot more work to do. Thank you for dropping by, Kevin. And I think that wraps up our questions, and we'll chat more sometime. And you're welcome to come on the show anytime, Kevin. We'll have to arrange a proper time, and maybe when you got some announcements you want to announce or something like that.
Sure. It's always like, never mind. I was going to jump into politics. I'll keep myself. Yes. I'll make sure that when I jump on, it's not just because I'm bored. I have something to talk about. But I want people to go play the crossword. That's super exciting today.
No, but you anytime. Right. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you same time, same place soon. Next week may not happen because of Google, because of events that are occurring on holidays, but we'll see. All right. Bye for now. Thanks.